Welcome to this Eureka City Council meeting, June 2nd, 2026. I hope you all voted. Yeah, if you haven't, there's still time, so get on down there. So we will open this meeting. It's nice to see you all, by the way. We'll open this meeting with the land acknowledgement. The land that Eureka rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Jirojiji. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments remove the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threaten to destroy their cultural practices. The city of Eureka acknowledged the Wiyot community, their elders both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates the city's commitment to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. And could we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Castellano?
Here.
Councilmember Moulton?
Here.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Here.
Councilmember Bauer?
Here.
Councilmember Contreras-Deloche?
Here.
And Mayor Burgell?
Here.
Oh, and Councilmember Contreras-Deloche, can you please let us know why you're coming in from Zoom?
Family medical emergency.
I can't find my pen.
Oh, we don't need a vote.
Yeah, we don't need to vote on this. Thank you. And did you call me?
I did.
I'm here. Great. And if all who would care to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and is there a report out of closed session, Attorney Black?
Yes, Mayor. No reportable actions were taken in closed session.
Great, thank you. And with that, we have a proclamation with the Elks Club with Councilmember Bauer. If you'd like to come on up.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a City of Eureka proclamation in recognition of honoring the 125th anniversary of the Eureka Elks Lodge number 652. Whereas Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks, Eureka Elks Lodge number 652 was instituted in the City of Eureka on February 23rd, 1901, and for 125 years has faithfully served the community through charitable works, patriotic programs, youth activities, scholarships, and support for veterans and local families. And whereas the members of the Eureka Elks Lodge number 652 have demonstrated a long-standing commitment to the principles of charity, justice, brotherly love, and fidelity, making a lasting positive impact throughout the greater Eureka community. And whereas throughout its proud history, Eureka Elks Lodge number 652 has contributed countless volunteer hours and financial support to community organizations, students, veterans, and individuals in need while fostering fellowship and civic pride. And whereas the Eureka Elks Lodge number 652 will celebrate its 125th anniversary during the weekend of June 5th through June 7th, 2026, commemorating more than a century of dedicated service and community involvement. And whereas the public is invited to attend a special open house celebration on Sunday, June 7th, 2026 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., providing community members an opportunity to visit the historic lodge, learn about its legacy, and celebrate this significant milestone. And now, therefore, I, Scott Bauer, on behalf of Mayor Kim Burgell and the Eureka City Council, do hereby recognize and congratulate Eureka Elks Lodge number 652 upon the occasion of its 125th anniversary and extends sincere appreciation to its members, past and present, for their many years of service, generosity, and dedication to the community. Be it further proclaimed that the city encourages residents to join in celebrating this historic occasion and to attend the open house on Sunday, June 7, 2026.
There you go. And if you'd like to say a few words. Oh, can you press the button there so the green light's on? Nope, other one. There you go.
Oh, right there where it says push. Got it. Okay. So just to remind everybody that we do have a banquet dinner on Saturday night at 6 p.m. To celebrate 125th. There's several out-of-state higher-ups in the Elks Lodge that are coming to that. So if you want to come, call the Elks, tell them you're wanting to come Saturday night, and they'll put you on the list. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Also, if you cannot make it Saturday night, or even if you do, please come out to our open house on Sunday, when we will hopefully entertain much of Eureka,
Nice.
and would love to have all of you with us also. Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I've always wanted to say this, I yield the balance of our time back to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. All right. Well, for mayor's announcements, I just have a couple of things. I do want to let friends know if you want to be involved in the city, we would love to have you. We have several commission seats coming available. We have 2 seats coming forward on the Art and Culture Committee, 2 seats on the Board of Appeals, 1 on Historic Preservation, 1 on Open Space, and anticipated 1 for the Planning Commission beginning at the end of the month, I believe it is. Just want to remind folks that the Friday night markets are happening. Arts Alive is this weekend. And then it was brought to my attention, I was out of town, but that Eureka Main Street did a great job with the gazebo, and there was a great turnout for the prom, both Eureka and McKinleyville. I don't know if you've been down by the gazebo, but they decorated. It's really quite lovely. If you get an opportunity, it might still be there. So thank you, Eureka Main Street, and all that were involved in making that happen. True appreciation for that. And so this moves us to public comment. This is the time for members of the public who wish to be heard on matters that do not appear on the agenda. City Council policy is to limit each speaker to 3 minutes. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. And pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. Is there anyone here who came to speak during open public comment? Hello and welcome.
Hello, my name's Joanne McGarry, and I spent the morning at the Board of Supervisors meeting on certain issues about animals and animal welfare and flock safety cameras. But today I want to talk to the Eureka City Council about a few things. Bicycles and buses. First of all, the buses are free for through August for seniors 62 and over, so I take advantage of that and encourage everybody, even if you aren't 62 or over, to try the bus in the days of expensive gas prices. Bicycles, I rode the Humboldt Bay Trail on Saturday to the Trail Summit, and they had a bike valet there, which was great, but then I wanted to come back for a concert at the Eureka Theater. And so the debate was, do I ride back to Arcata and then take the bus, or is there some place I can safely park my bike overnight and go to a concert and safely get home on the bus or with a friend? And there really wasn't anything available for me that Saturday, so I rode my bike in the wind back to Arcata and took the bus back to Eureka. And I just think it's an issue if we want people to try other means of transportation than cars to provide these types of safe places to park things like bicycles and scooters. And that brings me to housing. I have to store my electric bike inside my living space. I think I've mentioned this before. And so current housing is inadequate with bicycles in mind. So future planning should really accommodate that. The Friday night market, I went to the first one and challenged the organizers and asked Chief Stevens why the city of Eureka must use these single-use plastic cups for beer instead of alternatives that people like me really want to use, silicone or metal. or just something that's not single-use throwaway and continuing a bad habit of our society in throwing things away. There's apparently some sort of reason they have for it that doesn't apply to Arcata when they have their festival. So I'm kind of confused, but I really do think in a climate changing future with the Climate Action Plan, waste management and waste diversion, we really should be looking at alternatives to single-use throwaway, especially plastic. And it really is an energy saving as well. So I wanted to say that. And the final thing I wanted to say in terms of animal welfare, I took the bus to visit the Kmart site yesterday, just sort of imagining how wonderful that would be as a centralized location for something like Animal Control Center, and keeping it separate from the Sheriff's Department. And I proposed that at
Thank
the
you.
meeting.
You're 3 minutes, Rep.
Mhm.
Thanks, Joanne. Hello.
Hi, I'm Deborah Dukes. I'm a very proud resident of the city of Eureka. I was very proud when you all unanimously and first among all the government agencies in the county approved the Regional Climate Action Plan. Yay, Eureka. Because of my activities in other parts of my life, I've been subject to some scuttlebutt about funding for the Regional Climate Action Plan administrator position. Several agencies have already committed to funding it, their share of funding that position, and I would like to encourage you, beg you, get down on my knees and grovel to get you to commit the amount of money that Eureka, as county seat, largest city in the county, and first to endorse the Climate Action Plan, have obligated yourselves to contribute toward this position. Please, please, as you consider the budget later this evening, I'm sorry I can't stay for that or I would speak again then, but as you consider the budget this evening, please think about what that cut would mean to the citizens of not just Eureka, but of Humboldt County, of California, and the world. We can't do everything, but by golly, we can do something, and it's up to us to do it. Don't make me regret being so proud of being a resident of this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Is there anyone else in chambers who came to comment on a non-agenda item? Come on up. Hi.
I didn't know it was 3 minutes only. My name is Maddie Chavez. For the record, I am not related to Cesar Chavez. First of all, I would like to thank the council for allowing me to speak and be heard. I have a matter that I would like to bring to light and appreciate this opportunity to voice my thoughts and feelings on a very recent statewide issue. I'm here to discuss a conflict that has surfaced in the events with Dolores Huerta's accusations against Cesar Chavez. As a first-generation American on my father's side and being from the family of immigrant farm workers, I have personally felt affected by the removals and erasures of the political impacts that the United Farm Workers have influenced in America, formerly displayed at city sites statewide. These removals have been conducted without permission or input by the public as to what should be put in its place. What I'm about to read is a reflection of my feelings, and it is, to me, it is the truth. Bear with me, and hopefully many can resonate with this, being that almost 90% of American families arrived here as immigrants at one point. The alleged choices and actions that one individual made does not eradicate the entirety of success and achievements made through the efforts, beatings, marginalization, dehumanization, and oppression that farm workers endured, Latino farm workers endured for decades before being heard in the slightest. Circumstances for Latino farm workers and all farm workers are still far from perfect. It is greatly a work in progress, but the message and triumph that La Raza movement demonstrated is a flame that will continue to burn. With the will that Latinos and farm workers have persevered to live, provide for their families, and be treated humanely in a chemical-free environment is hugely important and concerns all communities. Perhaps it is a very good thing, if true, that these awful facts are being spoken upon in regards to Cesar. Especially being that a decades-long movement was not single-handedly orchestrated by one man, but several organizers, intellects, and committees across several counties in at least 3 states. Dolores Huerta, Helen Chavez, Richard Chavez, and many other people led in the name of human rights for farm workers to be paid, recognized, and treated equally is an uprising that would not have succeeded without the support and strength of the people. I would kindly like to request that the plaque removed at Hammond Park please be replaced with something that still honors and acknowledges the skilled work, intelligent diplomacy, and relentless determination that was dedicated by many farm workers throughout the mid-20th and into the 21st centuries, having allowed the passage of the California Agricultural Labor Relations Act and many other successful laws, policies, and regulations that still seek to protect farm workers to come into play. Events such as the Rose Grafters Strike, the Tulare Ranch Strike, the Delano Grape Strike, the Alliance of the National Farm Workers Association, and Larry Itlong's Agricultural Workers Organizational Committee binding to create the founding of the United Farm Workers should be a few of many events to create that listed on this new public parcel. I would be happy to help. Please show respect to the integrity of the United Farm Workers, families connected to these histories, and all Latinos and communities involved in farm work. Much appreciated. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
And
You
si
3
se
minutes
puede.
up. You did it. Good job. Thanks for being here. Welcome.
My name is Jennifer Bassett. I'm a small business owner in Old Town. And a few of us selectively came across some articles about the city of Eureka starting to charge for on-street parking soon. It's a big concern of ours that it might affect locals coming to see our shops and affect our business. Concerning to us, it would be nice to be more collaborative with the city. That they might take in the opinions of all the established businesses in Old Town. And we just wanted to bring that to the attention of the council, that we're all very concerned on the impact it's going to make on small businesses in the Old Town district. The metered parking, I talked to many customers today and yesterday, and they all seemed very upset and deterred by the idea. So I just wanted to bring that to light. And hope you'll consider collaborating with Old Town businesses on it. And that's it. That's all I have to say.
Thanks for being here. Is there anybody else in chambers who'd like to comment? Come on up.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, city staff, and community members. I don't know if this is the appropriate venue to announce my City Council candidacy or not. And if it's not, that's okay. I do have one concern I'd like to share on behalf of a long-standing resident of Eureka. I don't know if you can answer the question, though, or not right now. Okay, well, I will go ahead. I am running for City Council Ward 1. And I was born and raised here. My mom graduated from McKinleyville High. My dad from Fortuna High. I have over 20 years of experience in transportation, warehouse, supply chain, technology, software as a service, data analytics, leadership, operations, marketing, sales, and so forth. And I recently have moved back. I am running because I'm very, very, very passionate about community and public service. I've done a lot up and down in California, and I'm ready to bring it back here to the small community. Well, it's not so small anymore, but more family knit type of community service. And I'm really excited to be able to work with the community. I think some of you have seen me out there doing some of the work already in the community working. I'm now working with Eureka Main Street, and I'm seeing some of the conversation on the parking fees and so forth. And I think that it would be great to collaborate on that. Having lived in multiple cities in Eureka, there are ways to get around that so that the small business owners can still thrive, but yet we can charge for parking and make the money that we need to make for the city and so forth. The other concern I have is a longtime resident. She's been here for 50 plus years. I used to visit her all the time in my teenage years. She brought up a concern to me yesterday when I was discussing that I was running for city council, and she said that she had shown up here to voice some of her concerns and was a little bit disappointed that this isn't the venue for a two-way dialogue. She was hoping to get some answers and so forth. So I don't know what's happened in the past, but I would like to bring that up as a concern and potentially something to talk about to put put together something like that again, where maybe it's a limited number of people that can ask questions and get answers right in front of the public and have some dialogue, or however that looks like. But I just want to bring that issue forward. Thank you all for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else here in chambers? Seeing none, we'll bring it over to Zoom. Do you see anybody on Zoom, Shannon?
And members of the public on Zoom, if you would like to turn your camera on to be, as you do your public comment, we will allow that tonight.
Matt?
Good evening. My name is Matt Simmons. I am the climate attorney at the Environmental Protection Information Center. I'm going to keep my camera off. They're asking me to undo my camera, but I'll stay this way. I am here tonight to speak about the Climate Action Plan. Humboldt has been working on the Climate Action Plan for nearly a decade. It's a 2030 goal, which is coming up quite quickly, and so we need to be implementing it as soon and as collaboratively as possible. And so I'm asking the City Council to continue to fund the Climate Action Plan proportionately, as was previously discussed with the other jurisdictions. You know, the City of Arcata and the county have already committed, and I think it's important for the City of Eureka to do its part. I will also just flag that I think that funding this position will redound to the benefit of Eureka. It's a small investment that will then come back in terms of grants and other opportunities. And, you know, just broader, we're seeing attacks on climate action across the entire country right now, and it's important for us to continue to lead. So I thank you for considering this, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matt.
Katie? Go ahead, Katie.
Sorry about that. Hello. My name is Katie Gurin. I am not a Eureka resident. I currently live in Arcata, but I spent most of my life in Eureka. And I also worked on the Climate Action Plan as a consultant to the RCEA. And I'm here to request that Eureka help fund the Climate Program Manager position at the RCEA. As Matt and Deborah have mentioned before, this is a really important position. Funding and filling this position are key steps toward implementation of the Regional Climate Action Plan. And, you know, as Matt was saying earlier, this is a plan that's been in the works for a decade, and staff of regional bodies, the counties, local agencies, cities, and unincorporated Humboldt County staff have been working on this, you know, and have invested a lot of time into the Climate Action Plan, and it would be a real shame to stop that work now. The plan is long overdue. You know, as Matt mentioned, the timelines are short, and so we need to kind of hit the ground running. I do want to acknowledge, of course, that local government budgets are tight right now. But I believe the amount Eureka is being asked to contribute for this position is small compared to the city's overall budget. And, you know, like Matt, I also really think that it's an important investment in, you know, that will return, you know, improved quality of life for city residents. It's really important for us to be planning for an energy transition and for climate change now. It's really going to help prepare the community for the changes to come. So yeah, I want to urge you to support funding for the Climate Program Manager position, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Colin?
Good evening. Colin Fisk with CRTP. I am here on the same issue of the Regional Climate Action Plan coordinator or administrator position. And I really just want to echo what Katie and Matt and Deborah said, and also just take a moment to I guess, put a little finer point on it by just quoting directly from the Climate Action Plan that was adopted. It says, a cornerstone strategy in a CAP refers to a foundational approach or key initiative that's essential for achieving the plan's overall goals, serves as a primary focus, and supports the implementation of other strategies by providing a solid framework, significant impact, or critical support. And the Humboldt Regional Cornerstone Strategy focuses on the establishment of a coalition between jurisdictions and key organizations to guide a regional approach. The first action listed in the RCAP to implement that strategy is to pursue and obtain funding to create a climate program manager to lead the coordination efforts. It's really just important that there be somebody who is accountable for progress on the plan and who can help local jurisdictions like the city work together to ensure success in tackling the escalating climate crisis. I think, just for the recent history, there were a lot of negotiations which sort of ended up with a general consensus that the fairest and most sustainable way to fund the position is for each jurisdiction to kick in an amount proportional to its population. And as you heard, Arcata and the county have committed their shares, and RCEA has agreed to create a new department to house the position, and as I understand it, to cover all the overhead costs. So it's just really important for Eureka to step up and join their partners in this climate action plan to fund what is, as you heard, a pretty small amount in the scheme of the city's overall budget, but something that will pay out dividends in terms of both the improved quality of life for city residents and also future funding that the position will most likely help secure. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Do you see anybody else? Shannon?
I see no one else.
Okay, with that, we will close the public comment and bring it to council reports. And today we're going to start with Councilmember Moulton.
Took me by surprise, Mayor.
I'm sorry.
No, okay.
Good things.
I have, thank you, Mayor. I have no travel to report. Most recently, things slow down in the summer. Most recently, I attended the May 26th special meeting along with almost everybody else here. Friday night market. I was lucky enough to have some family come in from out of town to see the kinetic race, and I got to take them to, they're staying right in Old Town, so I got to take them to our first Friday night market and show off that awesome part of Eureka. Fantastic variety. It was super packed. Lots of fun. And then, of course, we went to the Kinetic Grand Championship, Humboldt's signature free community art event, and my Texan relatives really loved all of that. My nephew and his husband just had a blast, and I'm very happy to see them enjoying this place that I love, and I encourage folks to host anyone they can around here. It's great to show off. And on that note, happy Pride, everybody. Looking forward, I'm looking forward to the Dwayne Flatmo Alley naming party. The last council meeting, we decided to go ahead and rename an alley over by the 6-story dancer on the back of the Arkley Center for the Performing Arts to Dwayne Flatmo Alley. And we'll be having a big celebration to unveil that, to cut a ribbon, and it's going to feature an appearance by El Pulpo Magnifico, which is a giant flame-throwing octopus sculpture. And by giant, I mean like the size of a small building. So this is free event, open to the public, starts at 7, goes until 10. There'll be music and a food truck. And right there under the big dancer, we'll be shooting fire and honoring Dwayne Flatmo and his contributions to our community. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Castellano.
Thank you. Let's see, over the last couple of weeks, I co-hosted a tech mixer for remote and local tech workers so that folks can start to connect with one another and better understand that sector in terms of economic development. I attended the Workforce Development Board meeting, the Live Well Humboldt Working Group. I got to put on Kinetic Fest. That was for my job, but also it was fun to put on a big citywide event, and just thanks to everyone who was there helping just keep everything positive, and yeah, real big appreciation for the folks in Kinetic Universe because they bring so much joy to our community. And I attended the Eureka Main Street Economic Vitality and Design meeting, where we're doing a lot of thinking about beautification around Old Town, economic vitality, talking about how to support information sharing around businesses, around parking and things like that. That definitely came up today at the meeting. And let's see, this week there's the California Outdoor Economy Summit. I'll be participating a little bit in that, and bringing folks here from throughout the state to Eureka to talk about the outdoor economy. And then I will be chairing the Cal Cities Housing, Community, and Economic Development Committee meeting on Friday.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Fernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. Much like everybody else so far, it seems, of course, kinetic sculpture races, Friday night markets. I know this Friday I'll be with the Eureka Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence as they do their Old Town Eureka cupcakes and glitter blessings, celebrating Pride. And then just this last week, the Chamber of Commerce in the city, myself and Councilmember Contreras-Deloche met with advocates for the unhoused and had a discussion about next steps and where we can pursue some ideas to help resolve the impact that we're seeing here in the city. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bauer.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the city county 2x2. I get my weeks all messed up. I think it was the last 2 weeks, right? Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure I got it right. I attended the Redwood Coast Energy Authority board meeting. I'll just say people should be paying attention to power. There's a lot of really interesting bills coming from the IOUs, PG&E, the big companies trying to, it's just a lot of interesting stuff going on. I don't want to delve into it too much, but just be paying attention to our power, because power prices keep going up. I attended the Cal Cities Redwood Empire Division meeting in Fort Bragg, and I say that was a great meeting. All the council members from Crescent City to Point Arena, all the way to Clear Lake. And we discussed, how everybody's doing. All of our cities are facing some, budgetary issues, so we're not alone. And we got to talk about the blue economy. Fort Bragg is really focused on taking, their place and trying to figure out how to develop, an economy based off of what their resources are, the ocean, working on things like abalone and urchins and using wave power to generate drinking water from wave power. Really cool stuff. I was glad to attend. Caught a little bit of the kinetic race, which was awesome. And on Friday, I'll be vice chairing the environmental quality meeting for Cal Cities online. So looking forward to that. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Contreras-Deloche.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I went to Elected Officials to Protect America. They had a meeting about energy security. I'm not sure if I'd already mentioned that the last time that we met. And then I attended a NALIO seminar on Louisiana v. Calais. That was about the Voting Rights Act and what that's going to look like moving forward for our communities. I'd met with the Chamber of Commerce and AHA along with Councilmember Fernandez about homelessness solutions, and just had an opportunity to have Nancy at the Chamber relay to us, some of the concerns and some of the, for us to discuss strategies moving forward and how better to support our community members down there as well as businesses. I had some phone meetings with some of our local fishermen. And then, of course, I attended Friday night markets, and I also got to take my little boy to the kinetic sculpture race.
Great. Thank you. And I just have a few things that I was up to. I attended the HCOG meeting. I attended all 3 days of kinetics. What a gift to our community that is. It's so much fun and brings so much joy, as I've heard here tonight. I was able to perform a wedding on Madaket during Kinetics. It was really a beautiful, lovely couple and beautiful experience. I attended Unity Day at Free Meal, where they unveiled their gorgeous mural. If you get a chance to drive by there, it's just glorious. I was able to attend the torch run with the Special Olympics and law enforcement. I missed the ice cream, but I did get to go with them. That's always such a gift. Attended the Brad Medham Indianola undercrossing ribbon cutting, and that's going to be open now, not to close again is the hope. I attended the, as an observer, I attended the ad hoc homeless meeting with council members, this one and that one, Fernandez and Contreras Deloach. Attended the Friday night markets, and I was really bummed I missed the Forest Moon Festival. My nephew graduated from University of Nevada in Reno, and we had a big party for him, so I was out of town this last weekend. So been up to a few things, and I'm done. So we'll move on to our public hearings. Public hearings are scheduled for a time our first item is adopting 2025 Urban Water Management Plan with Public Works Director Allen. Hello.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Yes, before you tonight is our 2026 Urban Water Management Plan. Since 2016, we've been submitting these plans on a 5-year cycle. So this is our third time, and it'll be replacing the previous one of 2021. Every 5 years, we submit this plan to the Department of Water Resource. Our staff work closely with our water supplier, which is Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, and other cities and districts in the area, and along with our consultant, Freshwater Environmental Services, who prepared the document before you, and Oren is in the audience here to answer any technical questions you may have. It's important to note that this plan focuses on water supply and demand, reliability, and conservation. It has nothing to do with maintenance or improvements of our infrastructure. Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District provided the city with a water supply projection through 2045. It shows that the district has enough water to supply and meet our demands for multiple dry years. The city has continued, though, even though we have plenty of water, to try to improve our conservation. And in the last year, we've had a new program that's online that people can sign up for called Eye on Water that allows them to monitor their live water use and get leak alerts. So we're always trying to push conservation, even though we're not in need of it by now. We also have a program that offers rebates for water efficiency applies and encourages conservation throughout the community. And that's it for this.
Do we have any questions? Councilmember Fernandez?
Can you highlight a few points of the not the conservation program that goes a little further, but the rebate program that we have, or
like how to do it? Yeah, you go online to the there's a form that you can fill out through the finance department, and then it'll get sent over to our water treatment supervisor, and she'll review the appliance or whatever it is you're applying for to see if it qualifies, and then it gets approved.
And then what type of appliances are we typically looking at?
I don't have the details.
Okay.
Sorry. I could get back
Dishwasher,
to you.
washing machine?
Oh yeah, washing machines,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Water
any appliances in your home, water heaters, yes. I thought you wanted specifics.
No. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, that's what I thought of. Sorry. That's
Seeing none, we will open this item up, or we will open up the public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, do you see anyone on Zoom?
I see no one on Zoom.
All right, so we will close the public hearing and bring it back to council for a motion second and communication. Councilmember Bauer.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution of the Eureka City Council adopting the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan.
Second.
Okay, are there any further comments? Please vote.
Councilmember Contreras Deloche?
Yeah. Yes.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Great, thank you. And our next public hearing is adoption of water shortage contingency plan with Public Works Director Allen.
Okay, so this report gives you the framework and guidance and actions in the event of a mandatory water conservation effort. It establishes the stages of water shortages response and outlines the measures that would be implemented if conservation becomes necessary. It's also required to update every few years. So fortunately, our water supply remains very reliable. Our water provider, Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, has an abundant source of water stored in the Ruth Reservoir. This source has proven to be highly dependable over time, and there is currently no need to replace or supplement it with any alternative water supply. Overall, this document just ensures that we have a clear and consistent plan in place to the continued benefit of our strong water supply.
Do we have any questions for Director Allen? Seeing none, we will open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience or in chambers that would like to comment on this item? Okay, anybody on Zoom?
I don't see anyone on Zoom.
So we will close the public hearing and bring it back to council for Councilmember Moulton for a motion.
Thank you. And thank you for the work that went into this. I appreciate that this is all very rubber stampy, but there's a lot behind the scenes. So thank you. Yeah. I move that we adopt a resolution of the Eureka City Council adopting the 2025 water shortage contingency plan.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Seeing none, please vote.
Councilmember Contreras Deloche?
Yes.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
This brings us to the consent calendar. Thank you, Director Allen. All matters listed under this category are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. Pursuant to City Council Resolution 2011-22, if a member of the public would like an item on the consent calendar pulled and discussed separately, the request shall be made to a council member prior to the meeting. Unless a specific request is made by a council member, the consent calendar will not be read. There will be no separate discussion of these items. And I do know that G3 is being pulled, and also is G. Okay. So we'll need a G3 though. We're fine. So don't pull anything. Okay. So apparently nothing's being pulled. So if we can get a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move we approve the consent calendar in full.
Thank you.
Second.
Great. If there are no comments, please vote.
Councilmember Contreras Deloche?
Yes.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Great, thank you.
May I remind that when we have a council member participating remotely, when they vote, they have to comment whether there's anybody in the room with them.
Do I need to do that each time?
Yes, unfortunately, it's a little legal checkbox.
With each vote, I need to say, and there's no one in the room with me?
Yes.
Okay. There's no one in the room with me. Thank you, City Attorney Black.
And how do we do that retro? Or do we?
Retroactively, was there anyone in the room any of the times you voted previously?
Nope, I've even been afraid to open the door to get water that's waiting for me outside of it.
Oh, dear.
Nobody here.
Okay, thank you. All right, legislative action correspondence. Okay, seeing none there. We will move it to reports and action items. The Capital Improvement Program with Director Willer. Director Willer, not Millar. No, I know. I have them both written next to each other.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm very excited to be here this evening with you to discuss our capital improvement program for the 2026-2027 fiscal years. Tonight, we have our full project management team here in the audience with us, and I might bring them, I might note them as we go through the process. They play a pivotal role in making sure that all these projects are planned and implemented every day, and there's we do quite a few projects. So they're here with us today. Like I said, I'll probably mention as we go through the project them. I would do introductions, but it's kind of awkward going between being on screen and here. But we have a great team, and I'll bring them up as we go along. As usual, we'll talk a little bit about what a capital improvement program is. We'll go over what our completed and current project list looks like, and then we'll move into the categories and projects of our proposed 5-year CIP. To define a CIP, it's generally a short-term plan that identifies capital projects and provides a planning schedule and options to finance that plan. It's really a way for us to look into the future and look at our potential sources of funds that could go towards necessary maintenance projects or necessary or needs of the city or desires of the city, and allow us to plan for those in a way that we can implement projects that's orderly and efficient. Again, the purpose is to provide orderly implementation of the goals of the general plan and strategic vision as set by the council and is set by our codes. It's for orderly and timely basis for sound budget decisions to plan and finance future needs. It helps us maintain and replace our infrastructure. As we well know, Eureka is a historic city. We have infrastructure in the ground that's well over 100 years old, and we're finding different ways to maintain and replace that aging infrastructure every year. Deferred maintenance is a concept that really looks at when the can is kicked down the road, and there's been periods of time, across the country, across the state of California and in the city of Eureka, where there's been times where there hasn't been adequate funding to go towards maintaining different types of infrastructure. In this case here, you'll see on one side a street that has some pavement that's in very poor condition. That's an example where that pavement probably should have been replaced many years ago, but we're at a point now where we need to go in and do potentially a more expensive fix on that pavement than we would have if it would have been maintained in a more orderly fashion. So that's one example. Here on the other side, you'll see some of our fine folks from Humboldt Bay Fire getting access to our City Hall elevator at one point when we had a maintenance issue with it. That's something that we continue to look at when we look at our facilities and City Hall of issues where we need to address those. And sometimes there's not money for it, and then sometimes there is. And so we'll be talking a little bit more about that later. So this is the part of the presentation where we get to look at an incredibly long list of projects that have been completed in the last year or so, and then also that are currently in some stage of planning, design, construction, and again, we have a long list of projects. And so I'm going to run through these relatively quickly. If you have any questions about them later on in the interview or in the presentation, just please ask, and I'll answer those questions. So starting with our our completed projects list, this is a picture of our new above ground fuel storage tank down at the foot of Commercial Street. This fuel storage tank provides both gasoline and diesel to our waterfront. It's the only fueling facility on Humboldt Bay, so this is a critical piece of infrastructure. This above-ground storage tank was necessitated as the below-ground storage tanks that previously existed there were, from a regulatory standpoint, out of compliance and needed to be replaced. So this was an example of a relatively unexpected cost that had come up in this last year. This is a picture of the below-ground tank that was removed out of there. There was 4 of these 10,000 gallon tanks. 3 of them were diesel and 1 of them was unleaded. and they were it was they look like it looks like a Soviet submarine, I think. You're probably very well aware. Betty's Bayside Village was completed. It was earlier this year, but it was still completed in this last year. That took an incredible amount of effort from many facets of the city. And towards the end, our building official seemed like he was spending a lot of time down there trying to pull it all together to get it completed. This project, the funding came from many different sources, and I believe now it's up in operation. Here's a big one, Dias Park. This is the ribbon cutting ceremony in this photo here. This was over a $6 million project, improvement to what was known as 2030 Park, and now is Dias. So this is a really wonderful addition to our community. I added this one into the completed section, even though it's just about done, but it's going to be done here before the end of the fiscal year. This is the China Monument down on First Street. Here you see that there's the concrete has been poured and they're finishing the concrete. But this project was funded by donations from the Happy Group, and they will and should be completed here in the next couple months. This is the culvert at 14th Street. So this is part of the First Slough Fish Passage project. This was a project approximately $5 million of grant funding from the Fisheries Restoration Grant Program. The program allowed for replacement of two crossings. One is at 14th Street, as you see here, and one in one of the gulches where we had a culvert on M Street. That area, both these crossings were barriers to fish passage. There was also a number of other improvements along the channel. One of the improvements you'll see out there now, which is pretty exciting to a lot of people, is two new bridges in Cooper Gulch. So these replaced one bridge that failed during the construction and another one that had some issues there. And this really allows for better habitat connectivity through the park and a wonderful trail experience for walking over these bridges. Next project is C Street Bike Boulevard. This is a bike boulevard project on C Street from Waterfront to Harris. The project was grant funded by the Active Transportation Program. The project was approximately $2.3 million and provided bicycle improvements throughout the corridor with an effort to divert through traffic off of the corridor to create a safe and inviting environment for folks on bicycles and walking to be able to navigate through this neighborhood. Pavement rehabilitation 2024 was finished up kind of during the summer of last year. This project included work on McCullens Avenue. Oh wait, I'm getting my projects mixed up. Sorry. Harris from Broadway to California, 8th Street from Harris to Oak, and Myrtle Avenue from 6th to Harrison. We also had our pavement rehabilitation 2025 was completed last year as well. And this project was Boone Street from Dean to Fairfield, Fairfield from Del Norte to Henderson, and Henderson Street from S to I, F Street from Harris to Oak, and McCullens from Broadway to Utah Street.
Excuse me just a moment. A point of clarification. Would you like us to ask questions as you go along, or would you like to save them to the end?
I'm open to questions throughout if you like. And there is a period towards the end where we'll talk a little bit more in details about the financing of it. If your question is around that might wait, but I'm open to questions.
No, the question I have is, it looks like that's only half the street. And I'm curious about why it looks that way.
Sure. Yeah. This is during construction, so we're not quite done there yet. This would be the first lift on one side.
Thank you for that clarification.
No, but can I add to that? Because I get this question all the time, and it's, why did we just pave the center of the street? Why didn't we pave the entire street in some situations?
Sure. It does depend to a certain degree. sometimes there's a necessity to pave the parking area as well if it has an effect on the structure of the driving lanes, or of, say, if there's bike lanes that are on the street as well, those would get paved. Sometimes we look at the street and we look at the parking, and oftentimes the wear and tear is really on the driving lanes where the vehicular traffic is, and not in the parking lanes. And then we try to be as efficient with our funds as possible, so that that we can cover as many roadways as we can across the city. So by just doing the areas that are damaged, like in the drive lanes, that allows us to expend those funds to other streets and be able to do more streets in any given year and as time goes on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Councilmember Moulton?
Thank you. I was just typing out my question, but it's about this part. When was the last pavement survey done? Was that 2017? Where they graded every street in town and gave it a number between 0 and 100?
I think it was 2021 was the last round. And
Okay.
we're getting ready. We have through HCOG regionally, we have another consultant on to do a pavement condition index evaluation of the area, including the city of Eureka. So we'll be getting fresh data coming up here in the next year.
Okay, that was my next question. And just so I know, because this comes up to me, like, why aren't you paving my street? So I talk to people about the grading and, prioritizing, the worst streets getting paved, and then you got to kind of put work together that makes sense together. But is there I'm not going to ask you about future projects because you're going to cover it. Never mind. I was going to ask when we're paving what, but you'll tell us when the big projects are coming. Thank you.
Will do.
Any further questions at this time? Okay, carry on, please.
All right. Next, this is our water improvements project from 2024. It was finished in last summer. That's why it's here. I'm going to close the door on this one. This was a project to replace a very poor condition water main that was in Myrtle Avenue. This stretched from, I believe, 7th Street all the way to Harrison. We did a burst and pull type of project in order to avoid as much impacts to traffic as we could. I'm sure the traveling public felt the impact no matter what, but the difference between having a trenchless system where there's not a trenching procedure happening along the roadway, and you just have a couple of pits and maybe some layout, that really does reduce the amount of impact to traffic. And that's why we use this technology on Myrtle to really try to avoid more traffic impacts. Myrtle's a very impacted roadway. There's not a lot of different ways to detour around Myrtle, right? Like the closest cross street, you probably have to go down to Boone if you want to get around from Myrtletown down towards the waterfront. Here's a photo of what the layout looks like. The machine that you see in the forefront is a machine that it welds the PVC material together, and it lays it out. In this case, is at Sunny Avenue, and then we pulled that pipe into the street and burst the existing line. That was our methodology for replacement. Here's one of the entry pits where the pipe's being pulled into the pit and pulled through. Our next project is our annual sewer lateral replacement project from 2024. This project was wrapped up last summer. In this case, the photo you see here kind of gives you some metrics for what our infrastructure looks like on the sanitary sewer side of things. Service connections, you'll see 11,700 manholes, 2,700 length of gravity main, 587,000 roughly. So we have a lot of material. We have a lot of pipe in the ground and a lot of infrastructure, and a lot of laterals. That's what it says, service connection. You might be more familiar with a sewer lateral connection. That's what's a service connection is also known as. And here's a couple photos of what a sewer lateral replacement looks like in the street. Samoa Boat Launch Facility. This is a grant-funded project to improve the boat launch and dock that exists there at the Samoa Bridge or underneath the Samoa Bridge. So replacing a new floating dock with a new floating dock, make ADA accessibility and curbs, new public restroom, and I believe the project is scheduled to start construction this year. So just so you know, starting with that last project, we're going to in-progress projects. So these are not projects that have been completed. These are ones that are in some phase of progress. So again, planning, design, or construction. City Hall modernization. This is a project to replace a few aspects of City Hall that have been ailing. You saw the photo of the elevator early on in the deferred maintenance section. That elevator is scheduled to be replaced. The curtain wall system, the window system that surrounds City Hall is going to be replaced as well. That replacement is kind of driven by the fact that the system is very inefficient and lets a lot of cold air through. All of the windows do not work or do not close all the way or open all the way or get stuck. There's a number of issues with the windows. In addition, the HVAC system in City Hall is, especially on the second and third floors, does not work in many parts of City Hall. So there's a lot of cold zones that don't get heat. So the intent is to replace that part of the system as well. Here's a rendering of what the new curtain wall system will look like. So not a lot different from what the previous window, this is an actual photo of City Hall, and this is like a rendering of what the curtain wall system might look like. So a little bit different, but not incredibly. Courtyard improvements are operation complex. This also falls into the bond funding category, though this is one that's primarily funded through enterprise funds, sewer and water enterprise funds. This is a current photo of what our courtyard looks like. And this is a rendering of one of the versions of a rendering of what it is intended to look like. Though I'm not sure if we're going to have so many flowers planted along the edge there. I think probably have limited landscaping, but this is a nice rendering put together by architects who, they're trying to make it look as pretty as possible. But this is a much needed project. Our existing courtyard has a lot of building failures. Space is not laid out in an efficient manner, and it's also located in the tsunami zone. Our new location on Broadway or off Broadway is very much out of the tsunami zone, and this building will be very efficient and effective to help support the maintenance needs of the city. Our water, sewer, and streets, and our maintenance shop will be located at this location. All together there, and it'll make for a much more efficient process. The Municipal Auditorium West Wing improvements. This is another bond-funded project. This is a photo from a long time ago. On the left-hand side, you'll see the building to the lower left. That is the Windship School. And that's the building that we'll be working on here. Now, the building in the far distance there, the other part, the larger part of the school is no longer existing. Now we have the municipal auditorium in that yard there. But our work will be looking at this building, again, in the lower left, maintaining its historic context, but also including office and staffing upgrades in there in order to fully utilize a building that really hasn't been fully utilized in a long time. So this will be a great opportunity to provide space for staff and for additional staff space. Here's just a quick idea of one of the concepts that came along early in the design. So basically taking some large open classroom spaces on the second floor and converting them into office areas, including an elevator that will help that'll help provide accessibility to the second floor, because currently there's only a stairwell. Also, there are no accessible restrooms on that floor. So there are a number of things there: restrooms, elevator, interior improvements, and then also the windows are they're historic single pane wood. We're going to restore those and bring them up to current standards as far as efficiency goes. So that's a pretty great project there. Next one is the South Eureka Gateway sign. I was talking to the engineering team earlier, and I think this project's been in the CIP for 15 or 20 years, it seems like. It was well before my time here. And here's a photo of like a nearly completed sign out there at the Herrick Overpass. What you see behind you there is the Herrick Overpass up top. So my understanding is the project is supposed to be construction is supposed to be complete by the end of this week, and there'll be a ribbon cutting ceremony next week. So very exciting. This project was funded with Clean California funds. Thank you, Miles. Halverson Park Trail. This project has been bid and is going to start construction in the next couple weeks. This is a maintenance and rehabilitation of our existing Halverson Park Trail that has been damaged by tree roots and upheaval and other things along the way. So you can see here the project location is going from the Adorney Center all the way along Halverson Trail underneath the Samoa Boat Ramp. It'll tie into the improvements at the Samoa Boat Ramp and then continue around and connect to where a newer section of the trail where the Waterfront Trail Phase C took off from. So we'll have a much more modern Class 1 trail facility along that area, and one that will have proper plantings along the way so that it won't damage the trail in the future. Here's a little snippet of the design. You can see the Adorney parking lot on the upper left-hand side. You can see the Grace Martin Park, which we'll talk about here in a minute, kind of in the center upper slide. And then below is a sample of kind of what the trail will look like. It generally goes, it's pretty much in the same alignment of the existing trail, just a little bit wider, meeting that Class 1 standard, replacing some of the benches, replacing some of the street trees that were damaging the trail with some more appropriate plantings. So pretty exciting that one's kicking off. Grace Martin Park. This is a project that is currently in construction. You probably have seen the large construction staging that's going on down there currently. The project is funded through donations and grant funds. It's a wonderful park. I wish I had some better photos, but generally there is a playground area in the center. There's some surrounding sidewalks. There's different game areas. So that one is much further along in construction. I don't know the completion date off the top of my head, but I'm going to say probably looks like maybe this fall it'll be completed, late summer or fall. We are in the midst of designing the Pavement Rehabilitation 2026 project. This project includes Harris Street from California to M, 2nd Street from Commercial to C, and N Street from 5th to 14th, and G Street from 5th to Wabash. And I'll have some slides later that'll show those limits, and you can see those there. G Street Bike Boulevard. This is a grant-funded project that's associated with the Link Housing Projects, where there was funding through the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities Grant Program that was brought in by those projects. And this is one of the projects that was identified through our bike plan that those funds went to. It's directly adjacent to the location of I believe they're calling it the Mallard on 8th. Yeah, the Mallard on 8th is their location that this particular trail or Bicycle Boulevard is associated with. This Bicycle Boulevard will probably be a lighter touch Bicycle Boulevard than C Street Bicycle Boulevard, which was, there's diverters, traffic diverters, there was one-ways, that sort of thing on C Street. This one will probably be a lighter touch Bicycle Boulevard that'll allow traffic to still go through there, so it won't be quite the lower level traffic stress at the C Street Bike Boulevard. I mean, it'll be a higher level of traffic stress, but there'll also be full movement of vehicles, but there will be some things there hopefully to slow vehicles down and still allow there to be a safe environment for cyclists. Beta Zoo Trail. I feel like we've been talking about Beta Zoo Trail for ever. Beta Zoo Trail, we are currently in the design phase and the right-of-way phase. So our right-of-way phase is clipping along. We're meeting with property owners and making offers and acquiring easements. So progress is being made for the trail alignment there. And design is at about 60% design. So we're in a bit, we'll be pausing a minute on the design while we catch up with our right-of-way process. But that, and we really do, rather than this being a really fast process, which typically when you're in design, you can just kind of move through because we have this right-of-way phase, it'll be a longer, more drawn out process as we address right-of-way throughout the reach here. Just to remind folks who aren't aware, the trail will be it'll connect down to the Eureka Waterfront Trail near Tidd Street, and will connect up to Russ Street in the south end of Eureka before it goes on street, where it won't be so much as a trail, it'll be improvements to the sidewalk, with bicycle boulevards, sidewalk improvements, things to improve the ways that cyclists and pedestrians can get around in that section of town, on Dolbeer and W Street, from Russ or Harris to the south, around the zoo.
Tell me
Hence the
more
Beta
about
Zoo.
this magical roundabout that you have there.
Sure. So that's one of the components is a roundabout at Myrtle and McFarland. One of the things one of the things we need to do is we need to make sure that trail users can safely navigate our crossings, and our crossings through, we refer to this slough as Second Slough. So there's crossings at Myrtle, there's crossings at Boone, and there's crossings at Harris. Those are very important points, so we have to focus emphasis on safety improvements to those areas to make sure that trail users can safely cross those roadways. For the Myrtle crossing at McFarland here, which you're seeing here in the photo, the lower section there, a roundabout provides that opportunity to really slow traffic down, provide rapid flashing beacons to really bring to light when there's a pedestrian or cyclist ready to cross the area there. It also allows for more controlled vehicle movements for vehicles coming off McFarland, which has been a problem in the past where people trying to get out of McFarland onto Myrtle really struggle because it's hard to get queuing on Myrtle. The volume of vehicles basically going through there is very difficult. So what you see on the left-hand side is that'd be going to the north towards the bay. To the left, that would be McFarland Street, and then the trail takes off and kind of goes back into the lower Gulch area off the street. And then you'll see a little parking area there on the right-hand side. That's like a trailhead area where you could park. It'll be a small trailhead area, not a ton of parking there, but enough to get an area for folks to park. If they want to jump on the trail, they can go jump out and go to the Waterfront Trail into Eureka. They could go jump on the trail and head to Arcata on the Humboldt Bay Trail. But if you have any further questions on the roundabout, I'd be happy to answer them. Yeah, so there'll be bridges, boardwalks. I think we have some very long sections of boardwalk. In this section, we're really looking design-wise to have more of a concrete decking on the boardwalks. We've received a lot of feedback when it comes to the boardwalk that is associated with the Waterfront Trail over by the Blue Ox. It's aluminum, it's kind of loud, it's bright. So we're trying to do something that's a little less loud, visually more appealing. And so that's one of the ideas behind our bridges and boardwalks for this that's been developed. Yeah, I don't know. Our next project on the list is, where am I? Oh, there we go. Okay, is Cooper Gulch Trail. So this image on here is a number of trails. This is actually an image that was developed by our community services group, where they developed a master plan for Cooper Gulch Trail. And when the Link Housing Project came to the city and looking for options for active transportation type projects, bicycle projects, pedestrian projects, this is one area where we say, okay, we kind of have a game plan of what we'd want to do for Class 1 trails, trail connectors to neighborhoods. So we built off of that, and there's funding that came through that Link project for creating a Class 1 trail loop inside the park, and that's kind of interior, closest to kind of where you see the proposed ball fields are there in the middle. And then there'll be a connector up to P Street on the right-hand side, or sorry, upper right-hand side, and then a connection to 13th on the lower left. This really will allow to get neighborhoods to be able to be off streets when they're traveling through Eureka, so they can get, from, if they're coming off Myrtle, they're going 13th or P, they can kind of get in and out of the trail without having to be on surface streets. It'll also create a nice year-round usable trail surface in the park, and really a core to build off of going to the future for future trail connections. For example, you'll see here in the master plan, there's a connection going up to 14th Street. And while we didn't have, with this funding, the ability to go through the rigorous environmental process to get that part of the trail added in, that's something in the future that we can work towards, and would probably be a really great connector from a transportation and park standpoint to really be able to get people into the park and be able to use it. Our next project is L to M. It's much less fun graphic, isn't it? So it is not a 1 mile class 3 bike trail. Sorry, that is a leftover from some other slide. It is a very short section of actual trail. This is between, I don't know, it looks like in the history of Eureka it was called the L to M dip. It goes from M Street to L Street. You can see in the bottom the high school down there. It's through a gulch. It's not a developed right of way currently. It's just it's a gravel roadway. It goes down to one of our lift stations. So this is one of the areas where we had, with the first Blue Fish Passage project, we replaced the culvert down there with a 10-foot wide diameter fish passage culvert. So the crossing's in great shape. It's good for habitat. Now we can build a trail over top of it to provide a more formalized connection. People use it as a trail, but this will really open it up, and it'll feel more of like an inviting trail for the community to want to get in and use in this section. So that one is in the very infancy of its design. So that one's probably be constructed next year, designed and constructed in the next year or so. And to kind of go back to answer the question on Cooper Gulch, very similar as well. Cooper Gulch, designed this summer, construction likely next year. Annual sewer lateral replacement project 2025. That one is currently in project. We're about halfway through the project and intend to complete it in about the next month or so. I should say we're a little bit more than halfway, but we intend to complete it in the next month or so. Outfall maintenance. So this is a project with our wastewater treatment plant and the outfall. The outfall is in Humboldt Bay. It is offshore, so it's not in the shipping channel. It's between where our treatment plant's located and the shipping channel. We've done surveys out there, and we've identified that there are some improvements that need to be made. Some of those are regulatory required, some of those are maintenance required. So currently we are set up to have a dive team survey it in the next, could be as early as next week, but it could be in the next month or so. We're looking for a weather window to get our dive team out there. And then once we do that inspection, we'll finalize our design. And this summer, we'll have a team go out there, do those repairs. They're going to add on some, replace our diffuser ports that are currently on there. So that's a big project that's coming up this summer. This is our wet weather improvement bypass elimination project at the wastewater treatment plant. This is a regulatory required project. This is a bond funded project. The project estimate is about $20 million. So project started last summer. They've been working on it all summer long, or all winter long. Right now they're working very hard at it. Here's some photos around our facultated sludge lagoons. One of them is going to be converted into a equalization basin to attenuate flows coming in during wet weather flow events. The whole purpose of this project is to be able to provide the full treatment to the entire wet weather flows that come through the Elk River treatment plant. Plant flows swing from a dry flow of like 4 to 4.5 million gallons a day to in the winter up to 32 million gallons per day. So it's a huge swing of water sewer that needs to be treated.
What's the location of that?
So it's at the Elk River wastewater treatment plant. So this is all at the existing plant. So down at the end of Hillficker.
Right, but can you see it from the trail? No. It's back on the property then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
It didn't look familiar.
Yeah, it's back behind the treatment plant. So if you're out on the trail, like on the Hicksari Trail, there's a lot of vegetation there, and then you'd have to. It's on the far side of the treatment
Great,
plant.
thank you.
On the other side.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Your tours are being offered by your public works director.
After June 12th.
Discharge study work plan. This is a plan. This is a feasibility study that we're working on right now. This is a regulatory required project. We're looking at the assessing alternatives for our discharge for the wastewater treatment plant. This is a very important project. This will, we're looking at options to, are we going to have our discharge be offshore? Is it going to continue to be in the location it's at now? Our discharge is considered we're an in-bay discharger currently, and we have to show compliance with the California's enclosed bays and estuaries policy. So that's what this feasibility study is. It's studying alternatives and the feasibility of those alternatives for our discharge to continue via our NPDES permit with the Regional Water Quality Control Board. So that project will likely be coming back to you, I would say, in September for discussion. Lumbar Hills Fire Pump and Backup Generator. We're about halfway done with these two projects. We broke them into two projects. We took care of the fire pump. It's been replaced. It's up and running and is doing great. Our generator project is getting ready we've bid it, and it's getting ready to go in construction. That'll provide a backup generator for this, which in the past we've had an older towable generator that was located there that was on its last legs. So we replaced the original fire pump, and we'll be replacing the backup generators to make sure that zone of our water system continues to have reliable, safe water. Is this ever going to end? That's the one. Isn't that what we're all thinking? It will. It's coming soon. Only two more. Westside Flood Reduction and Sea Level Rise Mitigation Project. This is a $6 million grant-funded project. There are some city matching funds, about $1 million of city matching sewer funds. This is a large project that really gets at a number of benefits. It's a multi-benefit project, so it benefits sea level rise, it benefits flood reduction, it benefits water quality to Humboldt Bay. It includes trash capture devices that will remove coarse trash from getting into getting out of a number of our stormwater outfalls. It includes some changes hydraulically to our system in order to reduce areas where flooding was coming from, out of the storm drain system up onto surface streets. So it's a project that it checks a lot of boxes. So it's a great project. This project has been bid and will be going into construction this summer. You can kind of see the zone that we're located at here. There's Del Norte Street is going to be ground zero for this, between the waterfront and then up into the city, further into the city. I'm not seeing the cross street there, but a bit up there. There's also some zones along kind of Coster, 14th, in the short area where there's going to be some hydraulic modifications there, again, just to try to reduce localized flooding, provide some water quality benefits. And then, so from a sea level rise adaptation standpoint, this project's going to include some improvements to the outfall in Palco Marsh to help attenuate rising sea levels there, and help with increased storm events as well. There'll be tide gates in a number of locations that'll be installed that, again, will help really protect our storm drain system, which will help reduce flooding that'll come up into the streets in a number of cases. Commercial Street, as well as Del Norte and 14th are locations I believe are getting tide gates that'll help in that respect, as well as trash capture devices. Or maybe not at 14th for the trash capture, that'll be on Coster. And finally, Coastal Access and Resiliency Plan. This is a planning effort that we're going through right now to really try to understand how rising sea levels will impact our coastline. And not only that, but like what are those measures that we might want to take going into the future to adapt to rising sea levels so that we can plan for the city's infrastructure as well as the greater community that resides along the bayfront, including those, in marine related industrial commercial areas there. So this project is, again, it's the entire waterfront of Eureka. It really tears off of our CIP sea level rise project, and continues on. It's a big effort, and a lot of projects are likely going to come out of this. So they'll be very fun to discuss with you all in the future. So on that note, this is the break between running through all these projects and where we talk about like the sections of the CIP, talk about the dollars and the years and that sort of thing. So it's much shorter than the section we just went through. So we have 7 sections, which we'll jump into now.
Before moving forward, are there any questions on the sections that were just brought forward? Councilmember Moulton?
I know it's a lot to get through, but I'm eating it up. This is fantastic. This is the work of government. This is like how we do stuff, and then everything works and it's invisible and people don't care about it, but it's wonderful. And it takes a lot of planning and a lot of skill and a lot of expertise. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's a group of 5 individuals in the audience tonight, our project managers. They've done an amazing job of like shepherding these projects along through all these different phases and making sure that they're successful. And it's every day they're grinding, and that's the engineering team. We also have project managers and the other departments in the city that have played a major role in these projects as well. They all work extremely hard to make sure that these projects can be brought forward, and not only they like taking care of the project, but also like bringing funding into the city in a major way. I didn't mention it, but like from a funding standpoint, since we paused, unfortunately, you're going to have to bear with me now. In our completed section, we have about $21 million worth of projects. Of that, about 15.5 of that is grant funded. So that's like 3/4 of it is grant dollars that we talked about there. I didn't run through our in progress and break that out, but it's about $41 million worth of projects in there, and a great, over 50% of that, well over 50% of that's going to be grant funded. Probably in a similar percentage, I would guess, 60 to 70% of that's going to be grant funded. So maybe not that high, but nonetheless, they work very hard to help bring in grant dollars into the city, and I think it's a major benefit for the city.
Oh, Councilmember Contreras-Deloge?
Yeah, thank you. I just had a question. I don't know if you're going to go over this later. I don't recall when I read through it, but I saw in the pictures kind of a smattering of solar panels on the ops complex, and I was just going to ask what the plan was for solar on the city remodel as well as the ops complex.
Sure. Yeah, currently we do not have plans for City Hall or for the Ops Complex to include solar panels at this time. The Ops Complex is being, the design is set up to incorporate solar in the future. It's also set up to incorporate, fleet electrification. There's no natural gas being pumped to the site. It's an all electric site. So it's really set up for that future electrification. At this time, though, that's not something that was in the cards from a budgeting standpoint. We made sure that it was set up for that success in the future. As far as City Hall, sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to ask if that was a follow up, if it was that it was excessively cost prohibitive.
Yes, that's the case. It was. We're still trying to find ways to cut budget at this point. So we're pretty far. We're working very hard to bring this project in on budget, and we're still working at it. So that's one of the items that we couldn't bring into the mix at this point because of the cost.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carry on.
All right, so the 7 categories of the CIP. We're going to start with harbor and waterfront. So I've talked about a lot of these projects already, but we're going to kind of look at the financial side of it now and what's coming up, mainly focusing on this next year, because that's what we're coming up. That's what would be like incorporated into our capital budget for 2026. Here, again, we mentioned Samoa boat launch improvements. That's a grant-funded project, so that's coming from grant sources. That one will be constructed this year. And then as we look out into the future, dredging and marina and city properties. This is a project. The dredging is, right now it's only shown in that 1 year, but we're constantly looking like, when is the next time we can dredge? It needs to be dredged. I believe currently we've done some sampling and analysis of the sediment in the bay, and we're going to be using that to shape our plan going forward. So that is a project that's got things happening right now, but it's not that big capital cost you see there when we actually have to, find a way like to bring in or to be a part of a dredging project to get our boat basin, boat ramps, any of our facilities dredged. And then the commercial street fuel dock and repairs, that's a future funding source, potentially try to find some other funding to help with continued repairs of our fuel dispensers and other fueling implements at the commercial street fueling dock, as well as improvements to the dock, like small things, ladders, small boat dock. There's things out there that need repairs. So that's what you see out there in a few years. Any questions on harbor and waterfront?
I have one, and then you. On the dredging, so do we have a time certain when that's going to be happening?
So, like our Director Willer said, we are going through the sampling process right now. We know we need to look for funding for this because we don't have any funding. But by next year, we definitely need to do at least the boat basin. We're likely not going to be able to do all of our facilities because of the funding constraints that we currently have. So we're looking to limit it to the boat basin because that's very clearly the biggest issue right now. And we're working with the other facility owners, California Redwood Company, Schneider Dock, Chevron, Coast Guard, those other entities that are looking to dredge at the same time so we can get some economy of scale. And hopefully we know that we have to do it by the marina at a minimum by next year.
Okay. It seems to me we worked with a federal agency in the past. Is it the Corps of Engineers? No, the
Army Corps does our main channel
Main
the whole time. The Coast Guard we did work with last time when we did our dredging in 2017. The Coast Guard was doing their boathouse, and that's how we realized some efficiencies. But at that time, we did all of our facilities. We don't have the funding to do all of our facilities, and so Samoa Boat Launch, Case F Street Dock, B Dock, Fisherman's Terminal. Those are going to have to wait, and we'll just be concentrating on the small boat basin right now.
Thank you. Councilmember Bauer?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Director Willer about the boat launch. Is it funded? I thought we hadn't got the funding for the boat launch improvements.
So we are on the queue for Department of Boating and Waterways, and as you know, as a state employee, DBW has not been funded very well through the annual budgets at the state level. Joe Dux is our project manager there. We're definitely, when that program does get funded, we are in line. We have applied for this year's round of funding, and Special Project Manager Topolewski just reached out to them and asked them what the status of it was, and he said it's still going to be, we're in a holding pattern. So we are hoping that does get funded this year, and we do have the funding to do it. It's completely shovel ready, permitting, plans, designs, everything's been approved, other than the funding to do construction.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Information and technology. We have one project currently on the CIP in this category, our fiber optic network upgrade. You can see in the next couple of years, we don't have any planned projects. In the past, there was funding sources that came along through the COVID. There was some COVID funding. It was associated with the time period of COVID that we were able to do some runs of our fiber backbone. Now with some fiber coming into town, we have different opportunities to help link fiber maybe with Vero with our given network and be able to make those connections between our core facilities. So those core facilities would be, the police department location, fire department, city hall, the municipal auditorium, kind of our core network to be able to communicate, as well as our remote public works sites. So this project, we're kind of looking for funding. It's out there in the future. We're not exactly sure where it's going to come from, but we're going to continue to look for those funds. Oh, any questions on that? Sorry.
Any questions from council? Seeing none.
Land and facilities. So we talked about the municipal auditorium improvements. Here you see that we are anticipating spending starting the project this year. Really, the way I look at this is in 26, 27, later this year, the intent is to start the project. It's looking to be a $4.5 million project. We're still in the design phase. We don't have a hard number for what that is. So these are projections out. We will know better as we get through the design. But we do have an architect and team on board. We'll be moving into that design phase here shortly. This is a first phase of projects of these bond-funded projects that needs to happen. So with the municipal auditorium improvements, that'll allow us to move some staff over into that location and allow us to, when I say move staff, move them out of City Hall. So we have a place that we can move people to while City Hall improvements happen. That's why you see City Hall improvements pushed out to 28, 29. So that project has been almost all the way through the design, but now we're in a pause waiting for the municipal auditorium to catch up. So we'll be rolling along with those two projects here shortly, and I see there's a question.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Looking at the energy storage systems, could you tell me a bit about how that works? Because I am thinking batteries, and that's typically associated with using solar to store that. So what are we looking at here? How would that function?
Yeah, we're looking at opportunities in the future. So we don't know exactly when that funding source might come available to us. In the past, there's been dollars that have been associated with backup power. We have the Tesla battery packs here at City Hall, at water treatment, at wastewater treatment. Mm-hmm. So we're hoping that we can there be another opportunity that'll come along that we can be able to have some energy storage systems. What that looks like exactly isn't known. It's just something that we want to continue to reach for. We understand that's a priority, so we want to continue to have that on here. We don't have all of the project identified exactly what it would be, but that's what the intent is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I thank you for that. We talked a little bit about the energy storage systems. Courtyard relocation, we talked about that. You see here from the funding standpoint, the project has already been through phase one. That's where the site prep has been nearly complete there. That means the grading, the utilities, the fencing, that has all been established, which is quite a bit. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot. This next phase is the metal building, the foundation, the interior improvements. So that's a big cost that we'd be coming into this next year. We currently have a metal building contractor on board. And then there'll be a series of bids in order to provide the foundation that the metal building will be installed upon, all the utility connections, and then there'll potentially even be another bid or combining these bids. We're still working through this as far as the interior improvements go and what will need to go inside the building. As you can imagine, there's office space, there's locker room space, there's bays. There's a lot of interior improvements that need to be, while we have a good idea what we want to put in there, we have to really get into that, finish that design, and then bring in a contractor to help us deliver that. So that's what it's looking like in the next year. The idea, the project manager, Marcelon, has promised me that they will be in by December of 2027. Any questions?
Questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Parks improvements. So you'll see in this next year, the 1.1, I believe that is associated with the Grace Martin Park. So that's what those dollars are there. You'll see the next year trying to, again, reach for some irrigation at some of our parks. We've kept this one on the CIP, and we've been able to accomplish some of these park projects, whether it's Dios or Highland Park or other projects where there has been some level of irrigation that's been improved along with those projects. So oftentimes it can come with grant funds. So we don't always know exactly when those grant funds are going to come to fruition, but when we do, we try to incorporate irrigation into those projects as necessary. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes you want to have, low, or you want to have very drought tolerant plants, but I believe that's what that project's intended for. Not a lot out there in the next 5 years. Zoo improvements, the aviary mesh replacement, it's probably needs to be replaced pretty soon, be my guess. It's been on the list for a long time.
Yeah, 20 years maybe. It's been a long time. I will say that the 27, 28, and potentially maybe 26, those funds I believe are in there for restroom replacements at Ross and Cooper. I think those are the last of our 2 parks that don't have upgraded restroom facilities, and we've been looking at quotes for demoing the building at Ross. We don't have the funding for it currently, but we do have an estimate, and we're looking at that. So,
well, that's great news.
Just quick, sorry. to-
Councilmember
to-
Castellano?
yeah, quick question. I'm wondering if for those park improvements, if we could kind of name that specifically in the CIP.
we can do that, right, Jesse?
They may be named in the actual document, just not in the presentation.
Okay. I'll look.
But yes, I will take that in consideration. Next, what you've all been waiting for, I know, streets and storm drains. So this is we have a lot of projects in this category. Some of them are funded by, many of them are funded by grants. Some of them are funded by general fund. Our first project is pavement rehabilitation and complete streets improvements. We wanted to make a name change here. In the past, this project's been called pavement rehabilitation improvements, and we add the complete streets because every year we do add complete streets elements to these projects. As we address our streets from a maintenance standpoint, we look at opportunities to replace curb ramps. We want to make accessibility improvements all along each route. We try to, we may not get to every improvement, but we try to make as many as we can fit in there. We generally try to improve bike lane facilities if we can. For an example, on Harris Street, we added a buffer to that particular bike lane. So if there's an opportunity, we try to take that opportunity. They don't always present themselves without having like a significant cost that may be outside of what our budget is. So we need to continue to maintain our streets so we don't lose that. We don't degrade the pavement condition to a point where it costs more to bring it back from the dead, so to speak. So, but yeah, we incorporate complete streets improvements along with that. So that's one change that you'll see in CIP. It's just a name change. The projects are generally the same because we're just trying to represent what's already being done. So you'll see here a little bit of you'll see basically our general fund contributions here. This includes both general fund and RMRA funds. And earlier today, there was an item on consent where you approved identifying the streets that we would be using our road maintenance and rehabilitation account dollars for. So RMRA was established under Senate Bill 1 and was enacted in 2017 to address significant backlog of maintenance and rehabilitation needs on California's road. The account is funded through various sources, including increased fuel excise taxes, diesel fuel sales tax, and vehicle registration fees. This funding is allocated to eligible cities and counties for basic road maintenance, rehabilitation, and critical safety projects on local streets. So we generally get about, I think this year it's about $720,000 is what's predicted to be available for use. So that's part of the picture. The other part of the picture for this is the general fund contribution. So that would be dollars when Measure H was moved forward, that those were dollars that were primarily wanted to point towards maintenance of our streets. So that's what we see here in our first project column. Any questions along that? I'm going to go into further detail on the streets that are named there coming up here. And we can come back to the financial part of it if you have questions at that point. And I'll run through a few more of these projects. We don't have any safety improvement projects coming up here that are identified currently, but a lot of our G Street Bike Boulevard, L to M Trail, traffic signal improvements, Cooper Gulch Trail, Beta Zoo Trail, all these projects that are listed down those are also safety improvement projects. Those provide opportunities to separate or provide some level of separation from pedestrians and cyclists from being on the street with vehicles. So those are safety projects, but we haven't, they're not specifically called out like safety dollar. Oftentimes we'll show our HSIP. It's a Highway Safety Improvement Program dollars will go in this category. So when we get a grant and we have highway safety improvement projects, sometimes we'll put in here. In this case, you'll see traffic signals now at the very bottom to the right. That's that $1 million that you see there. That's actually from a Highway Safety Improvement Program grant. So it's a safety project, but we wanted, it's an improvement to our signalized intersections to improve safety. So it kind of fit more in the traffic signal category in this round versus just being a standalone safety project. So a little detail there for you there. Storm drain improvement project. This is the West Side flood reduction and sea level rise project that we talked about. So you see that we're having the majority of the project will be the $6.2 million part of the project will be taken this year. There's another portion of the project, another phase that we're hoping to find funding for. So we're working towards that phase of the project, but that'll be bid at a separate time. It could be 27, 28. It could be further out. Bicycle facilities. Here you'll see some dollars associated with, there's some dollars associated for bicycle facilities there. That's what those dollars are shown there. Usually those are bicycle boulevards and that sort of thing. And it's slipping my mind right now that exact dollar amount goes to. So I'll have to look in the CIP to see what that is. Sidewalk improvements. It's a relatively small amount, but a very important pot of money. This is $50,000 that we use to address any sidewalk improvements on city-owned properties. So there's a lot of city-owned properties, whether that's parking lots, building facilities, parks, that sort of thing, where we have sidewalks that are the city's maintenance responsibility. So we have a small amount of dollars here to fix those. We also have street trees that are city-owned street trees that may exist throughout, and this is a pot of money that we use to try to address any sidewalk repairs that need to be made for city sidewalks that would be impacted. So not necessarily like a privately maintained sidewalk that would be in front of a resident, but that would be associated with city facilities. Parking improvements. So that funding, to go back to sidewalks, that would be a general fund contribution for sidewalk repairs. Parking improvements, this would be a parking fund. So these would be funds that would be generated from parking. These would go towards parking maintenance, paving parking lots, restriping parking lots, fixing sidewalks, street trees, anything that would have to do with a parking management system that might need to be have dollars go towards it. That's what that allocation is for there. Street configuration improvements. There have been a few street reconfigurations that have been planned for. They're kind of out on the horizon, lower priority, hence you don't see them in the next couple of years. That's what that is. So if we were to say, go out, find a funding source to reconfigure, maybe there was I'm trying to think of a good example. Well, and nonetheless, it's to make street configuration improvements. Stormwater trash capture. We're showing a 0 right now in here, but the reality is our stormwater trash we have, I believe, 3 stormwater trash capture devices that are associated with our West Side flood reduction project that'll be installed this summer, which is awesome. The other 2 years, that's where we're shooting to find some grant funds or some other funds to help us find a way to meet that regulatory requirement to install these trash capture devices at our outfalls into Humboldt Bay. Tide rate gate repair. We have a lot of storm drain outfalls and outfall in Humboldt Bay. So there's often maintenance needs. They've been sitting in the salt water or in and out of salt water over the years. So some dollars there to help us address those. Sometimes we bundle projects together like that. In this case, we've just kind of shown, hey, some dollars out in the future that we might need to put towards fixing some of those tide gates. Beta Zoo Trail. This is where it gets a little bit more, you can see there, the funding is lighter in the next 2 years and then heavier when you get out to 28, 29, and 29, 30. That's because that's when we're kind of anticipating construction is more like in that 28, 29 year. It could happen faster, but we're not going to promise that because we have a lot of right-of-way and design work to complete before we can get to that point. Ideally, we'd be in that 27, 28, 28, 29 range, but that's where we are currently. We talked about G Street Bike Boulevard, Cooper Gulch Trail, traffic signals, and L to M Trail earlier, and those projects are all listed there. Moving on from this, talk a little bit about our recent projects that we've done here in the city, and a little bit of context with that. If you look at this table on the upper left, you can see that in 27 fiscal year 17-18 and 18-19, there was not a lot of work done. That was before Measure H went into effect. There were actually a couple years in 2021 where there wasn't any work done at all. I think we were saving dollars that went into that Henderson project that you see there on 21-22. So we kind of had to put our dollars aside and save them up so we could do that big project on Henderson. But that was also in 21-22 is when those dollars started coming in for Measure H. That's why you start to see these long lists of streets all of a sudden become on our list of projects that we completed. So 21-22, a long list there. We worked in a couple neighborhoods where we like jumped around, but did a lot of small sections of neighborhood kind of streets. There was the Second and Y, that kind of Y Street neighborhood in the northeast. Then in 22-23, that was in 22-23. And in 23-24, we were down in Old Town. That's why you see like kind of these shorter sections of roadways. There are kind of more block by block approaches. And then 24-25 and 25-26, we started doing these longer linear roadways that they weren't, you don't see the long list of streets that were there, but they were like very long sections of roadway that were addressed there. And again, in this last year, you can see here McCollins from Utah to Broadway, Fairfield from Henderson to West Del Norte, Boone from Fairfield to 6th, F from Harris to Willow, Henderson from I to B, and C from Waterfront to Harris. In this coming year, we have 2nd Street, which seems more like a cart path than a street sometimes. It's finally, we're going to put some dollars towards repairing that street, which is desperately needs repair. Harris Street from A to M. So we're going to continue on. Harris is a very long street, and we've taken on 2 sections of that. So we're going for another section of Harris Street, A to M. N Street from 14th to 7. That's a street that is, again, that's where we're starting to lose that street. So we need to get in there and make some repairs very soon. And then we're also counting G Street Bike Boulevard will also include pavement from 7th Street to Wabash. So that pavement section through there will get replaced. So that's why you see it on here, even though it'll kind of be associated with the G Street Bike Boulevard, but the pavement is also being taken care of. And then the next 5 years out, they're listed here. They're listed in the CIP. I'm not going to list them all, but if you have any questions on those, I think our next slide, we can look at what it looks like on our network from projects that we've completed or projects that are coming up here into the future. So this first slide is just the upper third of our map because it's hard to zoom in and get enough detail on the single standalone map. So we kind of had to break it up into 3 sections. This is the first section, clearly the northernmost section. The gray, that's been completed since 2021. So that's basically 2021. Again, that's when Measure H went. We started getting those funds coming in, and that's when we started doing projects. So that's why it starts at 2021. And then through last year, that kind of shows all the projects that we completed through last year. And then what the next 5 years of CIP are showing in the city from 2026 through 2030. Same thing here, the middle section of the city. And then here at the bottom section, which, of course, our city limits are a little jagged at the bottom of the south end of Eureka.
Real quick, did we receive any federal funds ever for road pavement rehabilitation projects?
Yes, but it's been what was that program called? It's been a long time. I think it's before my time at the city. So I'm going to say it's probably 15 years ago. There was some funding that came through that was federal dollars that we put towards pavement maintenance. But
it's all of our tax money we pay for federal taxes. We don't get a cent for our roads. Is that what you're telling me?
we did talk about the RMRA. There is some RMRA funds, the $720,000 a year.
That's not city though. I mean, state funds.
Those are state funds.
Those are state funds.
But federal funds we get.
I think that if we were to do like what do they call build it? I'm sure there's grant programs out there that if you could justify through some Eureka Build It and some commerce thing. I mean, not Eureka Build It.
Oh, there's big federal programs like Build is one of the past.
But we have
Tiger grants where they're kind of a similar thing. But those are supposed to be development focused, economic drivers, not just main street maintenance.
Okay.
So yeah, we do not get federal dollars for street maintenance.
Thanks.
Member Moulton and then Castellano.
I'm just wondering where this map is available. I'd say it's not in the book. I'd love to have this one in particular.
Yes, we can make that available.
Thank you.
Councilmember Castellano.
Thank you. Let's see, just real quick, can you remind me the policy through which, if a street that's been paved then gets utility work, for instance, some of the streets in my neighborhood were recently paved and then PG&E's been replacing the gas lines there. Does the city pay for that? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have a moratorium, we call them moratorium streets. So once we pave a street, there's a 5-year moratorium on being able to go in there and tear it up unless you have to do a larger repair. In some cases, we try to push off larger projects as far as possible, like to extend the life, but it's really, so first of all, we do coordinate with PG&E. It is a challenging relationship as far as getting all of their capital projects to align with our capital projects. But we do try to work to, if we're gonna have a paving project, we try to get it in front of them and be like, if you have a gas main replacement project or some other project in the area, get it done before we get in and pave. And sometimes we shift out our projects a little bit to allow them to finish their projects. Their projects tend to go on for a long time sometimes, and then we have to push our project out another year, and it can be really frustrating because we might have our design plans done, and we're like, oh, we're ready to go, but PG&E is still not done. So not to bag on PG&E, but those are some of the challenges that we have there. But yes, so moratorium streets, generally, if somebody wants to get in, if it's like PG&E or another utility or a project that has utility work that they need to do in the street, we don't always stop them from doing that work if it's necessary work, but they would have to do a larger repair. Like PG&E, some of their gas main work, we might have them do an entire lane of the roadway because they've had enough square footage of impact along that way that we'll say, okay, you've met this criteria that's outlined in our street moratorium guidelines. You have to do like the half lane road for kind of the limits of your work there. Outside of that, oftentimes I'll have to do larger patches to try to reduce the likelihood of that turning into like a bump or something in there that might be, not be a good part of the roadway.
Thank you.
And I just have a quick question. So since the passage of Measure H, we have been noticing a lot of the streets are being repaired. Do you have any idea what percentage of streets are still like, we got to rip the whole thing out, just start over?
I don't
ballpark?
know that. We have a lot of center line. We have, I think, 114 center line miles of roadway. So that's center line, meaning that doesn't count each lane. That's just like the middle of the roadway. So I don't have a good feel for that number at this time. It's something that we can definitely look at and determine. You know, we have this mapping. We kind of have a general idea of how many linear feet. We're still not there yet, though. I think once you get, we're really trying to focus our efforts on roadways that serve a greater part of the population, as far as maintaining those critical arterials, collectors. When we start getting into the residential areas, often those roadways, they can be damaged for sure. And sometimes we go in and we do a slurry seal project where we try to maintain, if the pavement condition's in a decent enough shape, we'll slurry seal. We did one this last year, kind of down in the, it was like in the neighborhood down in that general area. And so to extend the life of the pavement, we can get another 5 years, 6 years out of that pavement. That really helps, you know, like extend. So it's kind of hard. I think this next round of evaluation of the street condition, we'll be able to get a better feel for that and like where we are now. Because they'll go out and they'll look at every street in the city of Eureka and they'll identify like what's the pavement condition index for that section of street. And then we'll have a better accounting of what that looks like.
So a lot goes into prioritizing which streets are going to be done first. So if I get a call from somebody that says, well, my street's been bad for the last 15 years, it may not be prioritized because of location or how bad the damage is, those types of things. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a lot of, you know, sometimes it's not just, oh, these are the most used streets, even though those are important roadways to maintain because they degrade the quickest. But sometimes it's also, are we going to lose a street? Like, is it to that point where it hasn't quite failed yet, but it's starting to go? And if we get in there now, we can repair it to a point where it'll continue to, like, its pavement condition index won't dive off to the point where we're spending a lot of extra dollars to rebuild it. Sometimes there'll be a project where we're doing a big utility project, or we need to do a utility project, and maybe it makes sense to incorporate paving at that time too, so that you can clean up a lot of the pavement condition. But again, it would only be for streets that definitely need it. It's not like you're just paving it because there's utilities going there. We always look at the condition of the pavement as the uppermost thing. We have to have too many streets that we need to maintain to not be very critical in what we're selecting streets to pay for.
I appreciate that. I just do get a lot of questions about certain areas in town. So thank you. Are there any further council or questions from council on this item?
Mayor Burgell, Contreras Deloach had her hand up.
Councilmember Contreras Deloach?
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. I think actually, Director Weiler, I think you already just answered it. I was going to ask if that pavement evaluation that was coming up, if that would give us greater insight into the mayor's question, but I think you just covered that. And I would like to have a copy of this pavement, these slides as well. I just wanted to add myself to that with Councilmember Moulton.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely. Thank you. We'll make sure we get copies out, and I think this is something we can. We'll probably get up on the website so folks can take a look at it and understand what's been taken care of and kind of what's on the forefront.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Castellano?
Is this also the end of the CIP plan report?
Oh no, we got a lot to go.
Because I had kind of an overall question, but I'll hold it till the end. I didn't want to go ahead.
Yeah, we need a.
I'm good. I just
there's not as
it's more a process point.
There's more to come, but and just we're gonna if we do put out a map like this, one of the things that our priorities. There's changing priorities. It's not always like set in stone. Things change. Like you mentioned, PG&E might have a change in their plan. There might be a change in funding. There might be a number of things. So we might put up a map, but it might get updated every year. So, it's not like, hey, that map's the only thing that ever existed, So it changes. It's fluid. We try to be consistent, but we also have to make sure those priorities are being met. And with that, we'll move on to water.
Great.
Really not a whole lot here timing wise on water. Water is incredibly important. It's a huge health and safety concern. Our annual water distribution system, we try to take on a water main project every year to go address a failing or problematic water main in our area. So this next year, we've identified a project roughly $1.2 million. In the future, we've planned out about budgeting about $2 million per year for those projects. You'll see we have a tank recoding project. So those two tanks, Low Tank and Lumbar Hills, this is a phase project. The first phase will be doing some maintenance on the structure itself, some ladders, some dents, so some things there to like prep the tanks for a more specialized contractor that will likely be shooting for in 27, 28 to come in and do the coatings. And they've already done an evaluation, so we have an understanding of what we need to do there. But it's time. This has been on the CIP for a number of years now, and those tanks both need to be have their coatings upgraded. And then down at the bottom there, a very, very critical component of our infrastructure is the Mad River Pipeline. This is the water transmission main that moves water from Humboldt Bay Municipal Water to the city of Eureka's reservoir. And this project that you see, the $400,000 there, that's to address maintenance issue that we have on the transmission main. So from time to time, those projects come up. Sometimes they're emergency projects. Sometimes we can kind of see that we need to get to something, so it'll come in here. Like if we have a break on the main, sometimes we have to go fix it. It has to take care of so we can have water, continue to have water service. And then oftentimes it's like, oh, we have this identified issue, we're going to get out. That's why you see it here as a project, and then in the future also another project down there. Any questions on water?
Questions? Councilmember Fernandez?
I know you're going to touch on wastewater too, but the question kind of goes into it. As we're looking at our RENA numbers and we're looking at the housing projects, how are we making sure that we're building to capacity while we're doing this? Does the number that you have up there for the water distribution system address that? And as we're looking at potentially more customers or users of the system?
Yeah, I would say both across the water and the wastewater system. Generally, Eureka's population has been decreasing. So we have a lot of capacity on both the water and wastewater side. Like we could definitely, we could have a lot of population growth before we'd have anything to really be concerned about. These are primarily maintenance dollars.
Okay, well, I mean, that's good to hear, because if we were to fill like each one of the units somehow, we would still be at a good rate then for, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not a problem. In our last section, wastewater, we talked a lot about these projects already. Wastewater collection system maintenance, we've got to get out there and repair some wastewater mains. Enclosed bays and estuaries compliance, we talked about that. Our outfall maintenance project, we covered that as well. The improvement project at Elk River wastewater treatment plant, that's the $15 million you see there that will be wrapped up in that project, trying to finish that project up this next year. And then our annual sewer lateral replacement project going off into the future. And then a project to finalize the last part of our wastewater treatment plant combined heat and power phase 2 project. So there's an awful lot on the wastewater side of things, and I would say that is from a budget standpoint. If you look at water, like with discussing with Director Millar, water's in a good place. Wastewater, we're looking at our rate study. We need to look at a rate study in order to look at rates, because we have a lot of projects here, and there's some project costs that aren't identified here that could be higher or lower. We really don't know. As we get deeper into our enclosed bays and estuaries compliance feasibility study, we'll learn a lot more about what those costs could look like. There's a huge swing in what those costs could be. So it's hard to tell right now. But we're in this next year, we're going to be going through a rate study process. That'll be both on the wastewater side and the water side. It'll look at our projects. It'll look at our projections for the 5-year. It'll look at our 20-year CIP that we brought to you last year. And it'll use those numbers to generate like what kind of rate changes might we see. So that's something that'll be coming up here in the future. Wastewater, there's just a lot of needs in the system, And it's not because we're expanding like we talked about. There's not like a big population growth. It's because of regulatory changes, and it's because of aging infrastructure. Those are really the two major drivers there. And it's reality. And there's, that's, right there, like next year it says $20 million, that's a huge cost. And going out, while that we don't have that same number, those are still very large costs that we feel like we might need to, there's potential to have to do a rate change. So that's what we'll be going through that process in the next year. Any other questions on wastewater?
Any other questions? Seeing none, go ahead.
I just want to, again, our project manager's out here. We have project manager Brittany Powell, Garth McNabb, Matt Grosjean, Jay Waterbore, Katie Marcelon. All these projects we talked about, and the guy makes it happen, Director Millar. There you are, Lane. This group, Robin Prasker, Riley Topowiski, our project managers, Swan Asbury, all of them have a role in all these projects, and they're the ones who are lifting the weight and doing the heavy lifting. So really, they deserve credit for delivering and working on all these really challenging projects. So just really appreciate them, and hope that you guys understand that how much work they put in here at the city. And with that, we'll finish.
So with that, do we need to hold public comment on this item? We do. Is there anyone from the public here that would like to comment on this item? I'm sorry. Oh, you have a question? Okay, see no one in chambers. Do you see anybody online?
Colin?
Good evening. This is Colin Fisk again with CRTP. I want to just first of all express my appreciation for city staff and all the hard work that they're doing on all these crucial projects. It's not easy, but necessary. So thank you for that. I want to particularly also express appreciation for the C Street Bike Boulevard. I think maybe you don't hear appreciation all that much, but I do speak to Eureka residents pretty regularly who are just really pleased with the safety and sense of calm that project has brought to that corridor. And I can say I ride it myself pretty regularly, and aside from a couple of those busy street crossings, it's really quite pleasant. So thank you for that. I wanted to raise a little bit of a concern about the G Street Bike Boulevard and the idea of it being a light touch, just to highlight that a bike boulevard requires both speed management as well as access management to prevent through traffic in order to make it a comfortable and safe facility, and that is also laid out in the adopted bike plan. So I just don't want us to be spending money on a bunch of new bike infrastructure that most people, including families and kids, still won't feel comfortable using. And then just what I think is probably my annual reminder that the city has this complete and green streets policy, and it is pretty specific about what it requires, which is that all projects in the public right-of-way have to include facilities for all types of users, and there are very limited exceptions, and those exceptions do have to be documented. And also, notably, exceptions and also other data related to complete streets improvements and safety, like the miles of new bike lanes and the number of new crosswalks and other things, are required by the policy to be reported annually to the council and the Transportation Safety Commission. And although I may have missed it, I have not seen those reports, so I wanted to highlight that and hope that we're fully implementing that policy. Thanks.
Thank you, Colin. Do you see anyone else?
I see no one else.
So we'll bring it back to council for Councilmember Castellano's question and then a motion.
Great. Let's see, two questions. One is, I'm curious, as last week during our budget study session, it was discussed that we're kind of in a tight budget year. And so some of these CIP improvements are looking at future years. And so what's the prioritization process like if, let's say, we don't have the budget next year? How does that work internally? Do staff kind of, is there a point process? Does staff kind of hash it out? Or, just kind of curious what that looks like.
Yeah, we definitely meet on, all the department heads meet with the finance director, city manager on budgeting items, and there's items that are, there's budget for, like your line item budgets for running a department, it's like pencils and paper, that sort of thing. But then there's also the capital budget, and we have those discussions, and we look at like what's available for funding for capital projects. And so every one of these projects has to fit into that category as far as like looking at like what's the available budget. So that's something that we meet with finance director on, and we look at targets. And so we try to meet our, we have our budgets, try to meet that. We try to meet the budget. That's what I'm trying to say. So our project list, our projects that we have in the year, especially in that first year, because going out again, you'll see there's some like, hey, we're reaching for grant funds, or, we're going to have this project in the future. Those ones, we don't always have like, those are budgeted dollars. And sometimes those do get moved out if there isn't budget available for them. But on that first year, we're already to that point where we've like discussed like what's available for capital improvements, capital budgeting. And that's what you've seen today in the capital improvement program 2026.
And I'll add to that the vast majority of the projects in the capital improvement program are alternate funding sources other than the general fund. Most are enterprise funds for the vast majority from a dollars standpoint. A lot of it's grant funding as well. As it relates to the general fund, what we've done as you guys passing the bond issuance, that portion of the general fund facilities dollars that was allocated as a part of the facilities policy, that's going to pay off the debt of those bonds for the foreseeable future. So when we got the $31 million, there's a payment that comes from the general fund to pay off that debt. And so that's going to the $32 million I think we got. That's going towards the ops complex, the city hall remodel, and the municipal auditorium rehab.
And then one more question, last year, I brought up the public bathroom, the Portland Loo kind of idea during the CIP conversation, and it was, approved by council during that meeting, but I don't see it here. So would this be the appropriate time to put it back into the CIP?
So I don't recall the process of it being approved or not approved. When we look at restroom facilities, we look at all options for those facilities. When you were saying the Portland Loo, was that specific to Old Town? Was that specific to a certain location?
I mean, I think we were talking somewhere proximal to the waterfront trail area. We didn't decide on the exact location, but it was definitely brought forward by, during that meeting.
So we'll have to look. I don't recall that. As far as along the waterfront trail, depending on the location, it would be very difficult without utilities in those locations. So right now along the waterfront trail, we have a restroom at Truesdale. We have a restroom at the boat launch. We have a restroom at the Del Norte Dog Park. We also have a restroom at Samoa. Those are areas where we have facilities. As a part of the Samoa boat launch rehab, there is funding in there for a new restroom facility. That current restroom that's underneath the bridge is going to be relocated out closer to the street, and there could be an opportunity to look at the Portland Loos. The Portland Loos have been cost prohibitive when compared to some of the package stuff that we've looked at before, but
Sure.
we could look at it again.
I don't know if we need to get in the specifics right now of, whether it should be a brand Portland Loo. I'm just sort of citing that as an example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Moulton?
I move we receive a report and adopt the City of Eureka Capital Improvement Program 2026.
I'll second.
I just wanted to make a comment that I get a lot of feedback on the C Street Bike Boulevard. The stuff I see on social media is all like, they're so crazy. But when people write in or call or talk to me personally, people have been very, very positive about it, especially people who live on C Street. Has been a massive quality of life improvement for them. So it's not just about the bikes. It's also about keeping quiet neighborhood streets and not unintended crosstown thoroughfares. So I just wanted to share that with y'all, that feedback has been coming back, at least to me.
Thank you. Councilmember Castellano?
Yeah, one thing I would like to add in, this is a simple add, is, you know, when we talk about the Chinatown Monument, I do think it's important to name Humboldt Asians and Pacific Islanders in Solidarity as a partner there, since that organization did, you know, such a lot of work in kind of funding it, and just naming their labor and that partnership, I think, is valuable in just in terms of like talking about, like, you know, how the city works with community groups. So I'd love to see them named specifically in the work and in the plan. I know that's not on you. It's just something I think would just be something beneficial to honor their work there. And then just a couple things, and I guess maybe I have some confusion around, you know, in terms of council's relationship to the CIP, and I'm not like frustrated or anything, but I also like, okay, we brought something up last year, it was named, and then it sort of like disappeared between then and now. And so just kind of making sure that either, you know, and we can talk about it in future agenda items, but that what was named last year is brought forward in some way, that it can actually be meaningfully included in the plan. And then kind of related to that, I would like us to consider like the Halverson Park venue, like developing Halverson Park as a venue is something to include in a plan as well. And not at all to disrespect your work, because I'm really thankful for it, but just more just I want to make sure those things don't get lost in the conversation.
Thank you. Councilmember Fernandez?
No, I do recall that conversation because I don't remember the specifics about it, but I do remember council approving something along those lines in terms of a restroom. I don't remember the accessibility, if it was 24 hours, anything along those lines, but definitely having something there. So I guess the question would be then, you know, not to put this on hold, but to determine where that fits into the CIP then. Because we did approve that, and if we have to wait until after a break to determine that, I'm willing to do that.
Well, yeah, I don't think it would take more than a break to go back and look at that meeting again.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's something that we can do and bring back at a later date. As far as the Halverson Park, what would be simple to do that, and if we didn't do this last time, we should have done it that time. If it is council's prerogative to add something related to Halverson Park as a venue, then there should be some sort of consensus among council to add that to it so that it makes it official, because sometimes we have discussions that aren't voted upon or gotten to a general consensus, and that may be the reason why it didn't make it. I'm not
It definitely got consensus. Yeah. It was like a notable moment for myself, because like, yes.
So we can go back and look at that, but as it relates to Halverson Park, then we'd like to see that again, and then we'd make sure that we added it before.
So as a point of clarification, and then Councilmember Moulton, do you need consensus on that this evening, or are you talking about tonight, or are you talking about it a little later?
I would think that we would need consensus on that this evening, and then we would make the adjustment. The problem that we have when we do stuff like this is that there's not really a plan generating an estimate for something that just comes across as whether it's a restroom, where that location is, what it is, what the purpose is. That makes it so that we can provide an estimate. So let's say if in relation to Halverson Park, if we're looking at Halverson Park and making it a venue, what are we looking at? Are we looking at turning it into an amphitheater? Are we looking at a sound system? Are we looking at a stage? What are we looking at in order so that we can define the project? Because in order to put it in the capital improvement program, we have to have some parameters.
So would there be an opportunity for an addendum later?
Of course.
Okay. Councilmember Moulton, and then Castellano. And then
Councilmember Castellano, did you want to finish your thought about the restroom? I just want to speak to the idea of improving Halverson Park as a venue. It seems like the appropriate place to bring up something that is whole cloth, relatively new. I mean, it's a blank field right now. Would be strategic visioning. That would give us the opportunity with council as well as department heads to discuss the possibilities there, and then, like we do in strategic visioning, place it on priority. Look at that compared to the other strategic priorities, because I love the idea. And of course, I think it deserves more than more thought put into it in relation to the other potential improvements around the city and around like art and culture venues around the city. That's just my thought on Halverson.
Thank you. Councilmember Castellano and then Bauer.
Yeah, and just there is some precedent within the plan on the last page of the plan in these long-term projects. There is a page where things like that are specifically named, like that the Old Town Square and gazebo reconstruction, which, wasn't specifically named in strategic visioning or anything, so just to say that there's some precedent for it within the document itself. Though I do think it would be worth, one thing in terms of process I could imagine being beneficial is if these things come forward, during tonight, maybe putting them on as a future agenda item so that we can get, obviously none of us are going to have an estimate or anything like that, at this moment. So just kind of noting those to bring it forward. And then, I imagine we can make adjustments there as necessary.
Okay. Councilmember Bauer.
Yeah, and I do support Halverson. I think that's Halverson Park and upgrades, and maybe that's something we don't, we put on a long-term plan, and then, it's in 27, 28 or something, recognizing that the ability for us and staff to get this all put together and thought out and cost estimates isn't viable, I think, in the next fiscal year. But I want to speak to, if you look at the, list of road projects, and you see in 20, after Measure H, you see this huge list of roads, and then you see it diminish over time. I just want to make sure that, I think a big part of the selling point behind Measure H were roads. Whether you like them or not, you care that much, that was the selling point. I just want to make sure that we don't dip into those funds in the future when budgets get strained. It's a temptation that we're going to have. So I just want to be clear that we need to maintain, it's a small amount. And the more we whittle away at it with inflation and everything, we're going to end up with back to where we were in 2019, 2018. So just want to recognize that.
So we have been consistent in the amount of funding coming from Measure H. It's always been around $2 million, if not more. And the policy requires that. When you're seeing those lists, and I think Director Willer did a good job of explaining that list wasn't that we didn't pave as much. We did longer sections of road. So when you looked at 14th Street, we did pretty much all of 14th Street. Those first years that we did it, they were much shorter sections of road. And as the years went on, we've done longer sections. But the amount of money spent has been consistent.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the money's consistent. That's my main driver on this discussion. I recognize that we're doing long sections, and in a lot of cases we have to do some pretty significant rehabilitation besides just laying, some AC over it. So, but just want to throw that out there for future, that we're cognizant of that funding and what I think the will of the people were when we voted for Measure H. Thanks.
Thank you. And I would say that this Halverson Park, this Halverson Park issue, we've had these conversations more than once. So it's not like it's brand new. I know that I've had conversations with the public and with different people, and I'm sure all of you have too. So just as a sidebar, Councilmember Contreras Deloach.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to ask a clarifying question of Councilmember Castellano. I was making sure with the Portland Lou or whatever kind of Lou, you were saying it was in addition, right? Not as a replacement for currently existing facilities. Just the discussion that went back and forth with City Manager Slattery. I just wanted to make sure I understood that this was an additional bathroom.
Yes. And
Okay.
I have ideas in mind of where it could go, but I don't think this is exactly the right moment to.
Yeah, and I vaguely remember the conversation as well, and certainly always in favor of more restroom facilities, bathroom facilities down there. So yeah, thank you for the reminder.
Oops, anything further? Okay, well, please vote.
Councilmember Contreras Deloche?
Yes, and there is nobody in the room with me.
Thank you. 5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. We are going to take a quick break, probably, 6-7 minutes, and we'll be back. Okay, good evening, friends. We are back to this Eureka City Council meeting this June 2nd, 2026. Hope you have voted by now. And our first item on the return is the 2026-27 proposed budget with Director Millar.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This presentation is the second one on the fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget. Tonight we'll talk about the sales tax forecast history. We'll go over our major fund revenues and expenditures, and then talk about future budget discussions. So to begin with the forecast history, because this topic got brought up last meeting, I went back and I looked at the forecasts that were provided by HDL. I went back 4 years, all the way back to fiscal year 21-22, and then through fiscal year 24-25, because those are full years of data. I included both Bradley Burns and Measure H. They are both sales taxes, but they operate somewhat differently. And then you can see that I've included the original forecast for every year. And when we compare these to what actually happened, you can see that the forecast was both too high and too low in some cases, as we see back in fiscal year 21-22 and fiscal year 22-23. Back in fiscal year ending 22, we underestimated total sales tax by roughly $700,000. And then the following year, we overestimated the budget by about $500,000. And for the last 3 fiscal years, we've seen the variance be negative, but the differences shrink a little bit. When I total up the last 4 years of sales tax revenues for these 2 items, you can see that with Bradley Burns, on average, it's been about 1% lower. And then for the Measure H sales and use tax, it's been about 2% lower on average. So would applying or changing the number that's provided by HDL be a good decision? Well, it really depends. I don't have an expertise in predicting sales tax revenues. And honestly, I think given this variance of less than 3% for both items, that they are doing a good enough job at this, if not a great job. And that if we are concerned about an inflated revenue or inflated revenues, that I think the best approach would be to not budget 100% of our revenues, or making sure our expenditures are only 99.5% of our expected revenues. I think that is a better way to accommodate the natural variance that we see in these projections. But maybe we can discuss that at the end of the presentation, unless there are questions or comments right now.
Questions or comments now? In the moment? Councilmember Fernandez?
I mean, I don't want to do the rough math, but 1% would equal about how much then?
1%, roughly 400,000.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Or I would have to get back to you with the exact
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah, that's why I was like, I didn't want to do the math. I wanted you to do it. So thank you. Yeah, but 450 or maybe 400-ish. Okay.
I mean, it's a substantial amount of money.
Right.
My issue is, what if I was too conservative?
Mhm.
And let's say because of my projections, we cut staff. And then if those numbers didn't come in, maybe they came in better, then I would have to essentially hold that, or, it's a big responsibility, I guess.
And I would also say that the estimates of expenditures have a big contribution to this whole picture too. I mean, last year when we were looking at a deficit of $700,000, when we finalized the audit at the end of the year, we ended up having a $500,000 surplus, and that had to do with poor or inaccurate projections about expenditures. So, I mean, you'd have to look at both of them. And I think that based on the differential that we're looking at here, and I would expect to see the same from expenditures, they're doing a hell of a job.
Thank you. Carry on, Director Millar, please.
Okay, for the next section, we're going to look at our major funds and their revenues and expenditures. Unlike the general fund, most of these funds are very healthy financially speaking. And as we go through each one, you'll see that in most cases we are producing a surplus. So beginning with the water fund. In the water fund, we really have two categories of revenues. We have charges for services. This is the money that we bring in through our water bills. And then we have a miscellaneous category, which is mostly interest on pooled cash. We're expecting revenues from the water bills to go up by roughly $900,000 next fiscal year. We have a planned rate increase for fiscal year 26-27. This will be the final year of the previous rate study. On the expenditure side, much like the discussion during the last presentation, our personnel costs are going up mainly due to salary increases and health insurance costs. And then in that cost allocation category, the increase is being driven by liability insurance costs. Our debt service is poised to go down by roughly $600,000 next fiscal year. That could change. We are going to refinance some debt later this month, so that number might change. But for next fiscal year, we do anticipate about $500,000 in savings in that category. And then for transfers, in this for the water fund, transfers include monies going to CIP projects, as well as the contribution to the facilities bond, or the monies that are being used to pay the debt service for the new courtyard, as well as City Hall and the Muni. So overall, expenditures are estimated to go up by about 6%. And then looking at our revenues versus our expenditures, we anticipate a budget surplus of about $350,000. This will go into reserves. This is an increase by about $180,000 from last year. Next, we have the wastewater fund. So just like the water fund, the revenues are coming from our wastewater side of the bill, as well as the contributions from Humboldt Community Services District. In that miscellaneous category, that is simply just interest earnings on our cash. I did not budget any interest earnings in the wastewater fund for the current fiscal year. On the expense side, again, we're going to see increases in personnel costs. And then the other category that's going up quite a bit are the transfers. And again, that increase of about $300,000 means that there's more money being put towards CIP projects. I think for the most part, any increases in this transfer category should be seen as a good thing because it's going into infrastructure, and it is also an investment into our city. These other categories are mainly items that are consumables. So this is the one area of the expense side that I think we should celebrate when we see the number go up. So comparing revenues to expenditures in the wastewater fund, you can see that the surplus is slightly smaller than the current fiscal year, but it's still a surplus, and that $100,000 should go into reserves. Next, we have the harbor fund. So in the harbor fund, we do receive some property tax money from the former redevelopment agency. This goes towards our debt service payments. We have a number of rental agreements on the waterfront. This goes into the category of charges for services. Over the past couple years, we've been adjusting rents by the CPI, and that has yielded quite a bit of increase in our revenues. And for fiscal year 26-27, we believe we're going to generate another 100,000. And the transfers in are coming from the general fund to help subsidize this fund to keep a balanced budget, as well as to pay down some negative cash balances. So overall, we expect the harbor fund to see about 8% higher revenues. On the expense side, personnel costs are going up, but just marginally. And then community services did a great job of cutting back in these other categories. So overall, we're seeing our expenditures in the harbor fund go down by about 2%. And then comparing our revenues to our expenditures, you can see that we're anticipating a sizable surplus, which is great because that is only going to help us get this fund to a positive fund balance status. For the building fund, we only have one category of revenues, and that's charges for services. We expect this to go down slightly. We've been seeing, even though we're seeing more building permit revenues, we have seen a reduction in revenues or fees for plan check services. Most of that is done in-house now. We used to send it out to a vendor, and the applicant would have to pay the cost that the vendor charged us. So by doing it in-house, we are seeing less revenue, but we are saving money on the other side in the expenditures. So you can see personnel costs are going up, as well as cost allocation. But in that outside services category, we're spending much less on outside plan check services. So overall, the building fund is expected to increase spending by about 1%. And then when looking at revenues versus expenditures, a small surplus, but still a balanced budget, which is great. And then the final fund is the Cape and Care Fund. In the Cape and Care Fund, all the revenue is coming from grants or contracts with other governments or nonprofit agencies. We expect revenues to go up by about 34%. This is due to the CAPE program contracting with Partnership or CalAIM. And then on the expense side, we are seeing a large increase in personnel costs, and that is because we are hiring a limited term personnel to run some of these grants. Cost allocation is going up because of the increase in personnel. And then we expect to bring in more revenues than what we're going to spend next fiscal year. So that transfer of $400,000 is going to go over to the general fund. So overall, we expect a balanced budget in the Cape and Care Fund. So for the last section, I will just quickly go through what we should expect at the next council meeting. I will begin with a financial plan for the general fund reserves. I will provide the recommendation from the Finance Advisory Committee, and then we will adopt the budget. And that is all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Director Millar? Councilmember Castellano?
I'd be curious to hear. It's sort of an informal question, but last week I brought up, some ideas around economic development, and I'd be curious just to hear your thoughts on how to considering that in a tight budget year. In my mind, there's a benefit to thinking about what will increase tax revenue when we're looking at potential decreases, but just would be curious your thoughts on that.
I mean, I do have a history of working in economic development, so I certainly have thoughts on this subject. And honestly, at this point, I think because of what we're experiencing with sales tax, I mean, it's a reflection of our economy shrinking. And I think it's important that as a region, we work together and, not just as a city, but as a partnership. And we need to look for monies from the outside. I don't think any agency has extra funding at this point. But I think it's important to recognize that the likely growth will come from the more urban areas of Humboldt County. Previously, when cannabis was robust, a lot of cash was generated in the rural areas or out in the hills, and that has obviously changed. I believe a lot of our reduction in sales tax revenues is a reflection of that industry shrinking greatly reducing. So I think it's important that we look for a more modern or urban style of economic development that's focused around the Humboldt Bay, whether that's wind energy or, courting tech or any other industry. But I think, my suggestion is that we should start or be more involved in a regional effort to look for economic or development opportunities. I think fighting this on all fronts is important. So I don't want to ignore the home occupation permits or the retailers in Old Town. I think we have to fight this on all fronts, and we have to work with our partners to figure out ways because we're all in this together at this point. And I think if we all try to do our own thing, whether it's Arcata, Fortuna, Eureka, or the county, that, those efforts, there's some things that we should do just in-house, but for the most part, we need to think big and we need to work together to figure out this problem. Because if the sales tax continues to shrink, ultimately every agency will have to reduce their service levels.
Yeah, and I guess just I'm curious, and I think maybe we'll talk more about it next week, but what that looks like in terms of the kinds of planning we want to incorporate into the budget. So
I will say that, to Director Millar's point, we have been working with the county. The county's going through a very extensive process related to their economic development, and they're putting out an RFP, and we're having discussions with regional partners about what the best way to respond to that is and what would be best for the entire community.
Thank you.
I can add one more point. I think Eureka's staff is the best staff to lead the effort, though, or be take a major role in helping identify potential economic development strategies that will help out the region.
Thank you. Councilmember Contreras Deloche?
Hi. Thank you, Director Millar. First, I want to express my gratitude for you taking a look, going back, at what those projections for the Bradley Burns has been. I really appreciate us having kind of a concrete number on that. And it's nice to kind of look at that combined so that we can kind of, get an idea, because, I'm in watching this decline, I freely admit I'm concerned about what direction we're headed, and I can sometimes be overly, concerned. But I think, I just am looking out a few years into the future and want to make sure, like you said, I think for me it's prevention. I don't want us to have to have a contraction in our services, and I don't want us to make any sort of cuts down the line, with staffing and that kind of thing. And so I think for me that's really kind of where I'm focused, is how do we make sure this is a steady ship to kind of get through this. It won't last forever, but it may be for a while. And I appreciate your suggestions on what kinds of strategies to look at, and what kinds of things we can be doing to try to kind of bolster, our economic development in the area. I agree. I think.
So, excuse me, Councilmember Contreras-Deloche, is there a question in that?
Yeah, there is.
Good. Okay.
So my question, with regards to, you talked about that maybe an appropriate route to take would be to, use this projection, but to just bring down our expenditures underneath our revenues. Did you suggest a percentage? I didn't recall if you had said.
Yeah, I mean, I just threw out a number, and obviously we're not there today, and that would be something that we would work towards. But I do think it's important to year over year, as much that it's reasonable, to build your reserves or your fund balance, because even if you don't see a reduction in your revenues and you can keep your operations whole, we clearly can identify large dollar projects that we want to do. So even if you have a healthy reserve for your operations, it's nice to run surpluses, because that's how we get a lot of extra stuff done. And sometimes the things that we consider extra are the things that are most valued by the community.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I think I'll have more questions later, but I feel like that helps. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions from council? Seeing none, we'll open this item up to public comment. Is there anyone in chambers who'd like to comment on this item? Seeing none, do you see any questions on Zoom? Or, excuse me, comment on Zoom.
Colin?
Good evening, Colin Fisk with CRTP again. I won't take any more of your time. I just want to reiterate our comments from earlier about the importance of the city's contribution towards the Regional Climate Action Plan Administrator position. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Do you see anyone else?
I see no one else on Zoom.
Great. Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to council for... we're just going to receive a report and provide direction, so there isn't really a motion needed. Councilmember Contreras-Deloche?
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. I was reminded, Director Millar, what my questions were, and I apologize. I'm not feeling well, so that was one thing I was going to ask. In our current budget, did we take into account what potential contract negotiations going forward with HBF?
I mean, they're currently ongoing, but I believe that I've accommodated some potential scenarios from those negotiations.
So that's part of this?
Yes.
Is your potential projections for that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I don't know if this is a question for you or for City Manager Slattery, but is one of the line items in that budget for our part of that remit, our administrator for the Region Climate Action Plan?
Currently, no, there's not.
What was the amount? I know it was supposed to be shared across counties, across the county. Could you tell me what our portion was supposed to be?
Based on our population, it was 30 something. I forget exactly what it was, but it's based on population.
Is there a reason why that isn't budgeted in our current budget?
Yes, because we have decreased in other areas, and we have actually been on a budget cut, and we've had discussions and have a future meeting to be held with the executive director of RCEA, and have had discussions with the director of RCEA. We are going to be having a meeting with our city managers group and the county coming up. I believe it's at the end of the month, but we also received an email from the executive director saying that their board meeting Thursday, our CEA board, was very supportive of keeping the director of engagement and regional climate planning in their budget and devoting that position to largely keeping the RCAP going. So they have in their budget currently a position to oversee the RCAP. This other position that would be funded by other entities is an additional position to that. And we feel that the RCAP position that's being funded by RCA is currently adequate for that and can be supplemented by our staff time.
When you say we feel, who are you referring to?
Our staff and other city managers in the region.
Okay. I remember this being a discussion with council. I don't know when it was, sometime in the last year, and I think it was maybe Councilmember Bauer that had discussed it. I was just curious, Councilmember Bauer, I know you sit on the board with RCA. I know can't always discuss stuff, but I was wondering if you had any other additional opinion or insight on this particular issue.
Yeah, we discussed it and we included a position in the budget. So RCA is supporting that, if you call it the administrator, I forget the exact title, but we did include it.
That position being, is that different, or is that this same position that we're supposed to be, or that we've discussed us partially funding?
You know, I don't remember our conversation at that meeting being about two positions. So I'm sorry, I can't speak to that. I would like to hear what happens at this meeting and whether with the city managers and county and see what we're talking about.
Right now, I know that the Arcata has not approved any funding for this position. I do know that the county has included, their planning director has included, I believe $25,000 in their budget. It is yet to go to their board for approval, so it has yet to be approved. They're looking at budget cuts as well. So neither of them have been approved yet, but the discussions we've had, we've been trying to set up a meeting with the executive director for the past month or so, and it's been difficult to find a time for everybody to meet, but there has been a meeting scheduled, I believe at the end of this month or early in July, to have these discussions with Rio Dell, Ferndale, Fortuna, Arcata, Eureka, and the county, and Blue Lake, and Trinidad.
You know, I'm wondering if I'm wondering what council's thoughts are on this, you know, and I know there's been a previous discussion on it. Would it be appropriate for us to try and allocate a portion for this? You said our part would be about 30,000, and then if this doesn't end up moving forward, then then we don't move forward with our part in that. But would that be appropriate for us to be considering doing that?
I defer to you. Is this appropriate for this meeting, City Attorney Black? Is it?
I think it's okay. It has pretty directly budgetary implications.
Okay, so it's providing direction.
I think it's part of the budget conversation.
Councilmember Castellano.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Contreras-Deloche, for bringing that up. I also, you know, and to members of the public who came earlier, you know, I would like for us to designate some, you know, maybe it's 25 grand, maybe it's 30 grand for climate action work. Whether, I do think it would be good to bring it back to council in terms of like how that's used, you know, like whether it's, because, you know, if our CEA is already planning to have a staff, you know, maybe we're using that to like apply for the, you know, contribute staff time to apply for the Transformative Climate Communities grant, or, you know, or something like that, you know, ways that money will actually like grow both funding and opportunity, you know, here locally. So, but I do think it's worthwhile keeping some amount of that in our budget.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Yeah, I agree in that vein of having the money budgeted and then deciding how it's allocated or what what strings we want to attach to it. Then I think would be for a later meeting, but definitely having it budgeted, I think would be beneficial not only to our city but to the climate action plan.
So for providing direction, is that the direction that council wants to move? Do we have a consensus?
Yeah.
So would someone be willing to clarify maybe?
I can try and clarify. What they're asking for is to find another $30,000 to allocate towards climate action, whether it be the position with RCEA or something relative to the climate action plan in the budget. And what staff would do is come back at the public hearing and let you know where that $30,000 is coming from so that you guys can make an informed decision.
A clarification on that. So would it, the money that they're asking to be paid towards the salaries or of this person, wait for me, is that a once a year thing, or is that going to carry through for the next in perpetuity until it changes?
I believe that the position would be permanent. It wouldn't be a kind of like our grant position where it's like only dependent upon funding. The understanding that I have and the organizational chart that RCEA has is they have an administrative position that has been funded by RCEA that is for the RCAP, the Regional Climate Action Plan, and that person is supposed to be overseeing the RCAP and doing that. There is an additional position in the organizational chart that is this other position that would be relative to the members of the JPA, that would be specific used for them to oversee the RCAP on behalf of those cities. So there's two positions. One is already being funded by RCEA. The second one has not been approved in their budget and was discussed as being funded by all of the member agencies as an additional position. Staff's position on this has been that we're cutting 2% of all of our budgets and we're losing temp staffs and overtime and other things like that, and that for the time being it would be best to have that administrative position overseeing their portion of the RCAP and helping cities with grant funding, those type of things, and that for now we could go without that extra position and use our staff time as we've done with some of the other budgets we've had, other cuts we've had to overtime and to temp salaries.
Councilmember Fernandez.
I think it was also predicated on the idea that you'd be having this meeting among the other associated governments and then coming back to us.
So that's the issue. If we're waiting for that, then obviously this wouldn't, because that meeting is going to happen after our next meeting.
Right. So I think part of what the ask was is that we, still find a way to potentially allocate it. And if it's agreed upon at the meeting that you all have, then we move forward with it or we don't, but at least we know that the money may be available. Please tell me if I'm wrong on that.
So we'll need clarification on that, because my understanding was if we went to that meeting in late June or July, whenever it is, I can't remember it is, but and it was decided that that position isn't funded. My understanding that council's direction was to still keep that $30,000 in there and use it for something other than a position, but towards the RCAP is my understanding.
Except that we don't have consensus. Except that we don't have consensus.
So far, no, but that was my understanding based on the discussion.
Mayor?
Oh.
I'm sorry. Let Councilmember Moulton finish her thought, and then Councilmember Contreras-Deloach.
If we're going to set aside funds that are for climate action stuff, I'd like to see the larger picture of the sort of funds that are going towards that sort of thing and take that in context. I think just picking a number as a potential contribution for a salary that may not exist and then setting it aside for something to be determined in the future sounds like a weird curveball to throw the budget at this point in the process.
Thought finished?
That's my thought. Yeah.
Councilmember Contreras-Deloach.
Yeah. it's based on a discussion that's been happening, with county governments for almost a decade. And, part of the idea behind this position that we did discuss a little bit lightly, I agree, there's some stuff that's, missing, but, part of the discussion around it, is this idea that there would be buy-in from, it would be county and it would be each of the cities. And it's also a position that is a grant coordinator. So, it's kind of like with some of our other stuff like CARE, where, it's possible that it's going to be able to be grant funded in part. And so, and there has been discussions, the city managers and others have participated in discussions about what each city and the county's percentage would be. I just wasn't sure exactly what ours was. I know ours is a little bit bigger because we're a larger city. I didn't think it was 30,000. I thought it was less, but I wasn't sure. So that's, I'm asking based on the number that City Manager Slattery gave us, if we can, look at allocating that to kind of move this plan forward that's been, in the works for quite a while. And then he has that meeting, he could come and report back to us after they have that meeting of what the rest of the, local county governments are looking at. And then at that point we could decide, for sure, with the rest of that actual information being more concrete.
I just have one clarification and then Councilmember Moulton. So have we been discussing these positions? I mean, I've only been discussing them at HCOG for the last couple of years. I haven't been discussing them for 10 years.
No.
Have we?
No.
I'm just curious.
This was discussed as a part of the development of the RCAP. It was definitively discussed as being a shared position when the current executive director was at HCOG, and that was 2-3 years ago.
Well, it was 1 year ago that Beth left, so.
Well, I know, but she was hired about 2-3 years ago. The initial discussion of this was that she was, when the Beth, Director Burks at RCEA was the director at HCOG, while she was at HCOG, the discussion was, prior to anybody talking about contributing to this, was that they were going to use their grant funding and that they were going to use their own budget for them. And so that's how we move forward. There was a change after that point where the director came in for HCOG and didn't support that. I don't know if it was the board decision or their decision that it wasn't supported. That's when this started getting discussed about being a shared position. When the RCAP was being developed, we were considering a position of our own, actually.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Councilmember,
Actually, it's Councilmember Moulton, and then we'll get right back to you, Renee. Councilmember Contreras-Deloche.
Just now that we're actually talking this out, I'm realizing that we're talking about 1/20th of 1% of the budget, and setting aside that amount of funds for this sort of thing doesn't actually seem like that big of a deal if I think about it like that. So I'll thumbs up that.
So we have consensus. Are there any final comments on this item? Did you want to speak, Councilmember Contreras-Deloche?
Yeah, I just was going to apologize, Mayor. My point wasn't clear. I meant that they had been working on the regional climate action plan for that long, not this position. So that's on me for not making that clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just make one quick comment.
Councilmember Bauer?
I'll just say that the RCAP is a monumental task, and we have so far to go in order to do the things that, transportation is a huge part of it, right? And, we need 9,000 chargers to electrify our fleet. And I think right now we have 340 in the county. So I guess a lot of planning to do. And so, yeah, I support, whatever we need to do to try and accelerate our implementation of the RCAP.
Thank you. So do you feel like you have the direction you need? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. So then we will move on to future agenda items. Who has one? Anyone?
No.
Wow. Okay. Seeing none, we will move to our city manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a quick update. This is all tentative, but I want to keep you guys up to date on a potential that's happening. So Special Project Manager Davis with Uplift and our Chief Building Official have done a really good job of developing a relationship with a foundation that provides significant donations for homeless services, shelters, those type of things. As a part of this, it's really tentative. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but we have a potential to gain a significant donation to create a shelter here in town. As a part of that, we'll need to purchase a property, and in order to purchase the property and follow our guidelines and state law, we have to take it to the Planning Commission. So at the next Planning Commission meeting, there will be an item on there for the city to purchase Second and A, which I've discussed with council previously. It's 16 Second Street. That's going to be going to them based on the contingency of whether or not we get this funding and purchasing that property and developing a shelter on that site. So it's potentially really good news, and I just didn't want to get out ahead of it. And in order to keep up with the deadlines that are being proposed to us by the foundation that's being so generous, we want to make sure that we have our ducks in a row and make sure we're prepared if and when that happens. So that is going to go to the Planning Commission. If successful and we get this donation, it'll be coming back to you guys for discussion. And we would likely, if approved by council, we would own the property, and then we would put a deed restriction on it for it to be affordable housing / shelter for a certain period of time. And then we would receive funding to build a shelter on the property. So more to come on that later. I just wanted to give you a heads up that will be going to the Planning Commission on June 10th.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for City Manager Slattery? Councilmember Castellano?
Super excited about this. Thank you. Thanks to everyone for their work. Not to like annoyingly drive a point home, but there could be a Portland Lou there. Who knows? You know, just
It'll actually, the way that it's laid out right now, will have restroom facility, shower, as well as laundry, which is great.
Anything further? Was that a... Councilmember Contreras Deloach?
Yeah, there you go.
I just wanted to tell City Manager Slattery thank you, as well as Director Jeff Davis, who have worked on a lot of this and been working to find these resources and put this together. So just wanted to tell you thank you.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us tonight. We have 8 minutes till we have to extend the meeting, so instead of doing that, we're going to adjourn.